Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, the first webinar of this year, where today we will be discussing ELV solutions for a resilient West African infrastructure. With us, we have an exciting number of panelists, sponsors, and key stakeholders that will be joining us for the next 3 hours to give you a little bit more insight on what ELV solutions and resilient infrastructure products we can offer you, and also followed by hopefully very interactive and engaging discussions with our key stakeholders. I will very shortly bring on to the stage our chief strategist, Mr. Olusunokani Mustafa from 21st Century Evolution System, who will give us an welcome and introduction to our session. But before we do that, I want to give a little bit of time for people to log in, and I give you a little bit of a maintenance overview. Today we will, as I said, have an introduction from our sponsors, who will each give us a nice presentation from their products and solutions with regards to ELV solutions for West African infrastructure. And that will then be followed by our discussion. During the presentations, we will also try to engage with you, our public, with some polls that will pop up, and these polls will give us a little bit more insight on your ideas and feedback of our sessions. So without any further ado, I would like to present to you our chief strategist from 21st Century Evolutions, Mr. Olusunokani Mustafa, for a welcome and opening address.
Good morning, everyone. As Fred said earlier, my name is Olusunokani Mustafa. I am the chief strategist at 21st Century Evolution System. And it's such a privilege to welcome you guys to our webinar titled Building Tomorrow, ELV Solutions for the Resilient West African Infrastructure. I'd like to start by thanking our partners, Axis, Milestone, Molex, TOA, Salto, and of course, every professional, stakeholder, and industry leader joining us today. Thank you very much. Your presence here signifies one fact, and that is the future of West African infrastructure matters, not just to governments, not just to our governments or large corporations, but to all of us working to drive sustainable growth across this region. Our vision is that West Africa, as at today, as at yesterday really, is undergoing rapid transformation. Urbanization is accelerating, industries are expanding, as you see. And of course, regional trades under the likes of the initiatives like AFCA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is also opening new opportunities. Alongside these opportunities, we do, however, face significant challenges. There's the security threat, infrastructure gaps, climate vulnerabilities, and of course, there's an urgent need, to move forward in digital transformation. At 21st Century, one of the things that we believe so much in is that the answer to this lies in building resilient infrastructure. Infrastructure that is not just strong enough for today to withstand the shocks of today, but is also scalable and can evolve in the future. And that's why we are, ELV solution providers. And ELV solutions, I hear many people ask me a lot of these questions of what does ELV really mean, so to start with, so that we all come together and understand what we're doing here. ELV stands for extra low voltage systems, which comprises of hardware and software. In simple terms, not to bore you, these are the technologies, right, that are in buildings, in facilities that would operate on lower electrical power, but they deliver critical infrastructure, critical functions that will keep people safe, connected, and your operations running smoothly. Now, when you think about ELV, in your security systems, you have it in your CCTV, intrusion alarms, access control systems, when you go further into that, you find that intelligence, surveillance, and analytics rest on this. Remember when I said hardware and software, it's a collaboration, right? AI cameras cannot just only record but alert security teams when crowd gathers in unexpected places, so that it makes sure that people are safe. Advanced access control, biometric systems that will manage sensitive areas like data centers, that can trigger lockdown even in emergencies. Then you move to the fire, life, and safety systems, where fire detection and emergency communication systems rest. You can imagine a system where in a building, we're building bigger buildings now, right? Where areas where there's BMSs and then there are safe exits. In case of a fire at a shopping mall, something triggers. So life safety is ensured. Then there's connectivity, which is the data cabling area, Wi-Fi networks, you've got the intercoms, everywhere you need to keep in touch through, right? So you've got the structured cabling, you've got high-speed internet systems, you've got IoT as well. And more of this is getting embedded into artificial intelligence. Of course, as well, there's comfort and efficiency. Nowadays, everybody is going green. ESG compliance is a major aspect of every new building going up, right? So we're looking at energy efficiency and sustainability across new buildings, right? So in other words, ELV systems are the digital nervous system that brings buildings and infrastructure to life. These solutions are no longer nice to have. They've now become must-haves. So that's why you need people like us, ELV specialists. Now, our commitment at 21st Century is to continue to evaluate emerging technologies and see how we can integrate them into scalable solutions for our markets. We partner globally, but we localize our solutions, right? So it's not a one-size-fits-all resilience kind of mindset. It's what is good for Accra, what is good for Lagos, what is good for Nairobi, what is good for Senegal. It differs in terms of localizing it. Now, we also invest in local capacity development, where we are training engineers, consultants, and your technical teams to be able to operate these advanced systems. Our mission is to bridge the gap between world-class technology and the unique demands of our market. Now, this event is not just about presenting, right? This event is meant to be a strategic dialogue section, right? Where we talk about technology insights. We're expecting our attendees to be able to ask questions about that from partners like Access, where we can give you practicable cases, market intelligence, the trends that have shaped our infrastructure investment over the last 3 years, and what's going to shape it over the next 3 to 5 years. Strategic guidance as well. What are decision makers? What are they using to evaluate their ROI to mitigate risk and align infrastructure investments with their business growth and their targets based on sustainability? And then obviously, hopefully that we network and maybe seek partnerships. In this area. The relevance is very, very simple. The decisions we make today about infrastructure will define the competitive edge of our businesses and our regions for decades to come. So I urge every one of you to please engage actively, ask questions, interrogate assumptions. Yeah, it has been there before, but how do we do it now? And also share your own perspectives. Together, I'm hoping that as we're here, we would not just ensure that our infrastructures are built in West Africa, but they're built to last, to perform, and empower the next generation of progress. Thank you very much, and I look forward to an insightful, impactful session. Thank you very much for joining us once again.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for those very encouraging words and very nice insight in ELV solutions and infrastructure requirements. Before we move to our first segment of our partners, I would like to play a small video from 21st Century, just to give you a little bit more added information on who we are and what we do.
21st Century Evolution Systems Limited is an experienced ELV system integrator, and we operate in the sub-Saharan African region. Our specialty is providing cutting-edge technology solutions for all ELV needs. ELV meaning extra low voltage. Now, our team of experts will always bring years of experience and knowledge to your project. We will offer customized solutions that will cater for your specific requirements. Now, as the ELV system integrator in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have worked with a lot of industries, some real estate, commercial, to the residentials, healthcare, energy industry, education industry, and of course, our specialty, the hospitality industry. Our solutions include and vary from structured cabling to access control, surveillance, CCTV, audio-visual systems, and many more. It is our goal that we deliver for each and every client high-quality services that will meet and exceed their expectations. Now, how do we deliver this? By providing timely and efficient services that will make sure that your project is completed in a cost-effective manner that will make sense to our clients.
21st century here for you to design, build, and maintain. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think after these wise words of welcome and introduction to who we are, I think we are going to go into a small poll that will pop up with regards so that we can test our poll function. Please do work with us and fill in those polls so that we can then, throughout the session, gather your feedback and gather your thoughts and ideas. There's also a chat function where you can leave some questions that we can then, during our Q&A at the end of the sessions, address, and hopefully we have time to take them on with you, either on this platform or after the event. So I think this is our first poll. What we will do next is we will start introducing our sponsors for the event. Our first sponsors that we would like to bring to the stage is Milestone Systems. I think we have a small slide for them. Exactly. And today, Milestone Systems will be represented by Ms. Arlette Yomi and Mr. Yulin Davis. And they will be talking to us about unlocking resilient infrastructure with smart surveillance and analytics. And before we hand over to Ms. Arlette, we are going to give you a small video presentation from Milestone.
See beyond the ordinary and experience how video can drive innovation. Moving beyond passive observation into a gateway for intelligent action to capture the present and to predict the future. Innovation is no longer solely about who can innovate the fastest, but who can innovate responsibly. Together, we have the chance to evolve. Together, we can change perceptions of what is possible with video technology. Together, we will make the world see.
Thank you, Milestone. And I think I will call now on Ms. Arlette to share her presentation and talk to you a little bit more about Milestone.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Frederick. Good morning, everybody. Just let me know when you see my slides. Should be seeing something now.
Yes, we do, Arlette.
Okay, all right, awesome. Okay, good morning again, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you're connecting from. I'm Arlette Yomi. I'm the Channel Business Manager for Milestone Wexa region, and I'm connecting to you via our Johannesburg offices in South Africa. I'd like to thank 21st Century again for this opportunity to present to our audience here, Milestone System, our technologies and solution, and also be the first presenter on the vendor side. So as I dive into my topic today, which is how can we build a resilient infrastructure by making use of smart surveillance and AI. If we look at how things are evolving over the years, we've moved in surveillance specifically, we've moved from analog systems to IP system to analytics to IoT sensors and so forth. It's also just an unfortunate fact, and we're all in agreement that as technology is evolving, so do security challenges, so do threats. So it is essential that we have an infrastructure that is not only resistant to those challenges, but can also recover and adapt quickly. And on the next slides, I'll be showing you how Milestone, as a video management platform, we're able to unlock that level of resilience. Looking at how things are connected today, an access control connected to a camera feeding information into a VMS platform, which then makes that information available to us on our smart devices. Surveillance is no longer just an installation to tick a box. We commonly see that on site where installations are being made and they're just there to tick a box, but they don't serve an actual purpose. Do they work? That's $1 million question. So it's no longer a nice to have thing. It is a mission critical. And the hope is that we have a resilient infrastructure that not only will be able to anticipate, so using using our smart technology or surveillance, predict things before they happen, absorb, having a system that will allow you to ingest and take the level of information that we're receiving from these connected devices, and also then adapt and quickly recover from these security disruption. That's why it is essential to have a smart surveillance installation that will give you a real-time monitoring, if I can use the word, a real nervous systems that can allow you to detect threat earlier before they occur, to rapidly respond and to gather evidence so that an incident is just not overlooked. We have sites where incident happen and it takes months and months of investigation. But we smart systems today, we're able to provide you that information and get to an answer efficiently and quicker. That's why it is important to have a platform that is strong and resistant and robust, something that is open and growing over time, to be able to ingest the level of data that is being generated from all these devices. And this is where we come in as Milestone, an open platform built on an open architecture, a platform that allows you to integrate with any hardware system vendor out there. And the choice is yours. Flexibility is what we offer. So our solution is scalable with Milestone. From a single site to a national critical infrastructure grid. It is flexible. Our platform is built on to support AI, and analytics. And this is typically how we see ourselves when we say we are open, is the ability to provide our user a centralized and scalable and secure foundation for your surveillance system, making it ideal for building and maintaining a resilient infrastructure. Connecting to access control, connecting to alarm systems, connecting to fire panel, BMS system, and more. All of that comes together on a Milestone platform as a single pane of glass, making the task of an operator today much more easier and efficient. Long gone are the day where things were kept silos. We still have them today, but the future is to centralize everything, and that's where our strength lies. So on the next slide, I'll be showing you some user cases where we see how smart surveillance supports different sectors. So in transportation, for instance, where the camera are there to manage congestion, count vehicles, and detect coalition earlier. Is it a case of in critical infrastructure where you want to secure high-risk zone and ensure compliances? So that's your PPE detection or unusual behavior in critical sites. Is it in city, for instance, where we try to look at crowd, managing traffic and emergency controls? Or is it in facilities like hospital, campuses, where we are tracking people, where we are ensuring safety of our patients? Okay, so each of these cases that I've just mentioned can reflect how we can use video in transforming the way we manage our infrastructure. And now, I mean, this is now evident that the future of video surveillance relies in data, how we can use those data to ensure that the security of our people, of our environment, of our businesses are not altered. Okay, and also be able to provide that to you in the form of a dashboard. Imagine being an IT or security manager or facility manager getting now reports on your control rooms, or being aware of operational intelligence, having things like trends on how many people are visiting the stores, how people are waiting in the queue, etc., or even looking at the number of health and safety violence. The good thing with this way of measuring things on site is that it is scalable. Like Mr. Musi mentioned earlier, it's not a one size fit all with these solutions that we're providing. Every customer has a particular need, and there is a solution for every need coming from different customers. Okay, so now looking at these things, you would be wondering why the number 60. And this is actually a success story that I want to share for one of my customers in Africa. And that is a port. When they reached out to us, the challenge was that they were facing perimeter breach and cargo theft. So with the power of integration with Milestone, an open platform with the strength on integrations, we were able to marry the existing system with AI, with some thermal cameras, and that helped them now detect incident earlier before they even happen. And as a result, we were able to drop the response time by about 60%. And with that, we started seeing stability on site, less theft, and less incident happening on the perimeter. So the idea is to use technology as an enabler to fix a problem. Okay, and that is a site, like I said, I was privileged to visit the site 2 years ago. And when we look at that, we think Milestone as a premium brand is something that is expensive, it's something that is complex. That is not the case. I mean, we have a product for every customer of every business size or installation size. Smaller installation, larger installation, we have a solution for you. We also are very flexible in our deployment method. So from a single installation, single site client, multi-site, distributed site, we're even able to export video to a third party. And also we allow you to have access to your site any day, anytime, so that you don't miss on any events that has happened. In summary, and why is Milestone an important player in achieving a resilient infrastructure? It's because we are open as a platform. It's a technology that is trusted, that is reliable, that is robust. We are cyber secure compliant. We are compliant to various security standards out there. I mean, FIPS in America, in the military grade, that's one of the compliance that we also that we comply to. And finally, we give you access to a full stack of integration through our technology partners, which I will acknowledge on this call, because at Milestone, we believe in the power of an ecosystem. Like we always say here, one cannot be best at everything, or you cannot fly solo. You always need to have the best around you. So we have the best in the industry to provide you with that resilience infrastructure. Okay, and with that, I thank you. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Arlette. What a very interesting and in-depth presentation to Milestone. I'm sure we'll come back to a few of the features and a few of the points you brought on during our discussion a little bit later. And, as always, we do value your input and your participation and your partnership as one of our key stakeholders and partners with 21st Century Evolutions. I think we will pull up a small poll for the audience regarding your presentation, Arlette, so that we can also gauge the attention and the interest from our audience. Let me see if we can pull that up. Here we go. So please do help us fill in this poll. So how important is video surveillance data in your infrastructure planning process? As I mentioned before, we will share the result of all our polls after our event, and we will dive deeper into some of these polls that we are collecting during this event. So thank you again, Milestone. Thank you again, Arlette. We will move on to our next segment of our presentations. So today with us, we also have our valued partners from Salto. And with us today from Salto, we have John Walton, who today will give us a little bit more feedback or a little bit more insight into access control that evolves with the built environment. But before we call Mr. John Walton to stage, I think we will give you a little visual introduction to Salto and their company.
Dawning, gathering, reaching, connecting, flowing. We wake up each morning with the goal of enriching people's lives. That's the power of access. We're building a more sustainable and interconnected future, creating bridges to new forms of openness, new paths, new perspectives, new ways of sharing. That's what life is about. Empowering a smarter access to more places, experiences, and opportunities in a world that does not stop. Neither will we. We're driven by a dynamic spirit and a shared passion. Our companies embrace the latest technologies and prioritize the open exchange of ideas to unlock new ways of working. That's why we're one universe, one ecosystem, a WECOsystem. And with every step we take together, we'll keep moving forward. We are Salto WECOsystem.
Salto Ecosystems, inspired access. Okay, well, welcome on stage, John. I think we are giving you the rights to share your presentation. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Tell me when you can see the presentation. Thank you, 21st Century, for inviting us to participate, and I hope it's going to be a meaningful and good session from our side. I'd like to just touch on a couple of things before we start. The access control involves, with the built environment, we see access control moving in a rapid pace to simplicity, although we have to keep the high levels of security involved and entailed with everyday access control as we see today. So a little bit of background about Salto Systems. Salto is a Spanish company. We have our headquarters in Spain, factory as well, and we produce all our locks for access control, battery operated locks, and products come from a central factory supplying the entire world. You can have a quick glance at our presence. We are situated in Europe, North America. We are in Africa, Middle East, Asia Pac, and Latin America, with a strong R&D team with around our development side of 350 plus staff members, and total complement in the company 1,700 people. We've grown quite a lot over the last couple of years, and we've acquired some companies which I'll touch on in a few moments. Salter being the main brand, we've changed our branding recently to Salter Ecosystems, and part of that we've aligned ourselves with companies we've acquired. Gantner is a company from Austria, which is a very good specialist when it comes to locker locks, cashless vending, also do access control. Salter's got the development side, manufacturing of battery operated locks, access control, controllers, wall readers, and putting all the software behind it into the different platforms we'll touch on, from on-premise to cloud solutions. And Vintier complements our product range where they specialize in ticketing and booking systems, where relating basically to the attraction and leisure industry. So for example, you could have a QR code, book online, get a QR code, arrive at a museum, scan, enter, do the tour, or same applies for water park. So we see this harmony between Salter, Gantner, Vintier as a holistic approach in access control, just giving us a wider range of avenues to explore. Now, in a nutshell, if you ever look at this slide, it's no different to any business out there today. You have access control in strategic areas. It could be your main entrance needs to have access control when you enter the gate, a lift lobby door, apartment door, technical rooms, your spa, gym, restaurant areas. So there's many, many areas that need certain level of access controlled by users, and also to revoke people from going to certain areas where they're not permitted. For instance, you can't have a tenant go to a technical room. And this is all taken care through access control, and how we take control through our SVN platform. In most cases, it's our Pioneer technology called Data on Card. The access control resides on the actual credential, the card or the bracelet or the mobile, and not on the lock as such. Some of the solutions that we have to offer. So we have a quick look at access control. You know, we have people that used to sign in with books, and then they would open a gate for you to enter a building. Today, things have moved simpler, faster, quicker, and they wanted to use modern technology. And this is exactly where Salter comes to play when we offer access control. We always ensure that you have the high level of security, but also the simplest way of gaining access through doors. In this case, you can see people coming down the corridor. They have no credential, no card, no phone, and they're using smart access from a smartphone to unlock a door. And that is the world we are living in, where people just want to have simplicity, but yet they want to also have a lot of reporting associated with access control. Besides your cards, technology, various platforms that we use, MyFair, HID, Pico, Legic, etc., we feel and find that the market is driven by higher security than just a card or a PIN, and that calls for face recognition technology. We acquired a company also that specializes with a face recognition reader, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we've got the highest form of security wherever it's needed. A new product that we've seen that's also very popular and climbing the ranks in the Salto family is the ID visitor management system. And what it basically entails is quicker entrance into a building. And this could be any building. It doesn't have to be a hotel. It can be a commercial building where people can actually either pre or post enroll. So beforehand, they could send you the details for, let's say, a bank, and you could enroll the person, and you can have a meeting with this person in a meeting room. The person will get a QR code from the bank, and you would just purely go to the self-help terminal, scan the code. It will issue a card and give you access through the front door, and then you can make your way to the meeting room where your meeting will take place. So that is your one option. The other option is that people that are regular visitors to a building can enroll themselves on the day when they arrive, and then they just go through a normal on-screen process, and the card will be dispensed, and they can go to the designated areas based on where their permissions allow them to go. The door intercom system, we've also seen we had to get some form of communication besides just access. People were asking, clients and tenants, and were asking us how could they enter and communicate with those tenants. Very difficult sometimes to track and get hold of. So what we've designed, which is also a real game changer, is the door intercom system. Where you have a QR code, you will scan on the code, a phone list will appear, and you can phone the tenant, and that person will open the door for you. The smart lockers from the Gantner portfolio side of things, we're looking at a complete range of on and offline lockers. Very nice looking lockers in the sense of when you look at it, they do not obtrude and stick out. Modern technology, and it's designed to meet storage units within our modern buildings today. You look at your co-working area, we've seen in the Kenya market, for instance, a huge presence for co-working. The very open plan, very European standards, except for there's meeting rooms and there's open spaces. Where do you lock your belongings away? You would like to go and lunch, maybe your laptop. So you have a locker, you can put have storage for temporary, you can have temporary storage for your laptop, and it can be on a rotational base as well. So you don't have to assign a locker to a specific person. Wherever there's a green light, you'll know that's open. If it's red, it's occupied. So it's first come, first serve at the end of the day. The integration side plays a big integral part when you look at Salto's portfolio of access control products. Like some of our other manufacturers mentioned earlier, we're not a one-stop shop at the end of the day. We're part of an integral part of the society in the building and the ecosystem. And we have opened up, obviously, for other companies to integrate, and we share integration with them as well, so that we can all have harmony in the same space. Like Frederick mentioned also earlier, that if you have a fire in the building, then how would that fire talk to the access control or to the camera or whoever else is in the building? So it's important that you have that understanding that you can actually just talk as one system at the end of the day. And if a fire does erupt or there's a threat, it can release doors on a certain floor automatically. So we have event and alarm modules that are shared, and it's server to server base, which means that when an alarm is triggered, we just release. We don't interrogate, we don't ask questions, we just do as we are told. So those integrations take place. We have integrations with iOS platforms, with BLE phones, you name it. So there's so many integrations that's important for access control to work from your mobile at the end of the day as a simple push of a button, but a lot of work in the background. So some of the platforms that I'd like to just touch on that we have, because we have several platforms. The Salto on-premise platform is your traditional access control that resides on a server in a building, and you'll configure it. You generally have a team, maintenance team or IT team that will administer, and it's a little bit more cumbersome, yet we still strive to have a very simple operational side from a user perspective. We have our SVN data on card, which I mentioned earlier. So the access control resides on the card and not on the lock, which makes it much easier to give permission, revoke permission, and if a card is lost, to have it updated at an online point. Our vision is to replace all mechanical keys with some form of electronic lock, so simply because we can get audit and reports and intelligence back from an electronic lock. From a mechanical key, that's not possible. And then, of course, we look at the management of security in your building to optimize the operation of a day-to-day operations, to make sure that it's efficient and very safe for users. And then we've got a scalable smart access solution for maintenance and deployment throughout your building. So we can update plans, as you can see on the last slide. I can have a pod or a permission updated by an update point. I do not have to go into a control room and say, please change my work shift. It can be done in the field from an online controller. Keys as a Service is our cloud solution, very popular. And why people choose to go the cloud solution is, first of all, it's very simple and easy to use as an operator or end user. And you are always up to date. So there's no need to have a server update, license fees, server firmware, etc. It's all taken care by Salto. You can, at the flip of a phone or a laptop, you can gain insight into your activities. When doors were opened, closed, your operation starts at 9 a.m. and closes at 8 p.m. All of that information automatically will come through to your mobile device as an alert. You can also manage your access of all your businesses, not necessarily one business. It could be a chain. You could have a fleet of 60 shopping retail shops that you'd like to monitor. All can be done from a tablet, smartphone, or from a web browser PC. And then, of course, you can streamline your operation. So you can also do remote openings. I could open up a guest house in Mombasa or in Lagos, and I could be sitting in Switzerland. And that's the beauty about it. Everything is done from the palm of your hand. So the cloud solution is very popular. It's well adopted within the co-working, co-living space and mixed residential properties as well. Our last product, or I'd say not the last, our newest family member, the HomeLock platform, is a all-in-one cloud-based solution, and it's driven towards the residential market. And we've seen basically with this product where we've taken all of the equipment basically away in access control and left a client with what they want: electronic lock and a mobile phone in their hands. Those two items give you basically HomeLock in a watered down version. So it will give you access control and you need nothing else. Of course, you can add more peripherals to it to bring these locks online. But as simple as a lock on the phone, that is what HomeLock does. Once again, Salto takes care of the Nebula Cloud, and we make sure that everything is integrated, seamless, running, and you operate, get home, unlock your door, use your mobile, and go on as if nothing's happened. The nice thing about the HomeLock, and we'll touch on, is the reporting side of it is very powerful for operators. So on the residential side, they wanted simplicity. You lose keys, you have to have keys recut, change locks, people that rent, and you have to, it's a costly exercise. So what you can do with your electronic lock at the end of the day is you can just change and permission for a user. So let's say the tenant stays there for 1 month and it's a short-term rental. Once they leave, it's like a calendar invite. You just change it to enable rather, and there's no longer a person having access to that apartment. And you can do this for a series of equipment.
So, John, I think it's incredibly interesting. We are running a little bit short on time. Can we run through the last slides, or maybe start wrapping up?
Sure. I'm going to just show you, I've been talking a lot about the technologies, all right? And I just wanted to show you on maybe a range of our locks. There we go. So once you have a look, you have a battery-operated lock on the left-hand side. We have cylinders, we have keypads, we have wall readers, we have padlocks, we have the actual smart lockers, home solutions, hotel design, and all of this can be battery operated, standalone, or go online. So for every property, any vertical, we have a solution for that in the ELV space.
Fantastic. And just for our audience, Thank you, John, for this presentation. Is that all the presentations that will be presented today will be also available upon request once you reach out to us after the event. So thank you very much, John. I think it's clear to say that Salto ecosystems have really inspired access solutions and really help contribute to the ELV ecosystem within our infrastructure needs across Africa. We're going to launch a small poll for our Salto presentation. So please, audience, feel free to participate. As I mentioned before as well, there is a chat and a Q&A option on this platform. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them on the platform. We can either reply to you live on air, or we will reply to you on the platform, or one of our sales executives will reach out to you for more information and details. So for Salto, which access control approach do you believe will dominate in the future developments? Please give us your thoughts, and we will share those results very shortly after this event. Thank you. So thank you, John. Thank you, Salto. Without trying to stick to my timetable here, Kevin will join us very shortly from Molex. So Molex today will be presenting us with a discussion regarding to infrastructure cabling for smart and scalable systems. And that will be presented to you by Mr. Kevin McDonald. But before Kevin comes on stage, we will launch a small intro video for Molex.
Imagine a world without connectivity, where the first broadcast, small steps transformed into giant leaps, and oceans bridged with the push of a button never came to be.
Connectivity is the foundation of today's world, and it is driving the technology of tomorrow.
At Molex, we provide the engineering expertise and top-quality interconnect solutions necessary for smaller, smarter, safer, and more powerful and reliable products and systems.
From the factory to the road and beyond.
Our customers are manufacturing the products you see around you every day, those you depend on most.
The phone in your pocket.
The stove that cooks your family meals.
The car that shuttles your children to school.
And through powerful collaboration with our customers, we create connections that make your essential products work.
As well as the infrastructure enabling them. Safer driving experiences.
Even more streamlined devices.
Less invasive procedures.
And faster data centers.
Our global team of design, engineering, and manufacturing leaders
help our customers carry their brilliant ideas through to production.
Wherever our customers go, they have one thing in common.
They bring us with them.
I am Molex.
I am Molex.
I am Molex. And we are creating connections for life.
Like that. I am Molex. Okay, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you for that nice intro video. Kevin, the floor is all yours. I look forward to hearing more about how I am Molex.
Thank you very much, Frederick, and thank you very much to the team of 21st Century Evolution. Much appreciated. I will share my presentation. Okay, so from our side, I mean, I look after South Africa and Africa. I'm based in South Africa, looking after Molex itself. The company is called Molex Connected Enterprise Solutions, which is an entity of Molex. As you saw that video is all around connectors, and that's where we see Molex is. Molex is a connector-based manufacturer. We need to make sure that we support solutions in the market, which often is the portion of RT which is never really looked at properly. You know, we talk about the backbone within buildings. Often you don't see the brand Molex, or you don't know what is running behind those walls or connecting the servers and the switches and Wi-Fi access points and CCTV. However, this is where Molex play a vital role. So I'll be just discussing some items around the backbone and just giving you some insight into where we see things going through in the future. Let's see. So, the importance of backbone cabling. Sorry, it's going a bit too fast there. Backbone cabling, often referred to as the central nervous system. As mentioned, it's sitting behind the wall, it's connecting everything through. If you have incorrect cabling or incorrect performance requirements, naturally we're going to start seeing issues. I have a colleague that works with me, and he'll often use a phrase to say, you know, your cabling, if it's not connected properly and you're sitting on a Skype or in a situation like this in a Zoom call, and the first question they ask is, can you see my screen? This is potentially where you start seeing lags and delays in cabling playing a vital role where you're not going to have the connectivity. So the central nervous system ensuring efficient and reliable high performance transfer data across organizations. So it's coming up that side. It's a bit slow. So apologies for this. So it's ultimately the cornerstone within your enterprise network infrastructure, and this is due to its ability to maintain signal integrity, reduce interference, and support high-speed data transmission. If we look at it, 5 pillars of your backbone cabling. Centralized connectivity. The backbone links local area networks, data centers, servers, external connections. So we've got to make sure and we ensure that all parts of the network communicate efficiently, effectively, and on time. Support high network traffic. It's designed to handle large volumes of data traffic these days. You look at cloud computing, as the previous gentleman had to say, this is a vital role when it comes to making sure that the information is at hand. Imagine sitting there and putting your fingerprint into a door and it's taking 5 seconds for you to get out when the building's burning down. This is where the difference is. IoT devices, and also ensuring that there's smooth operations across all departments. Scalability and growth. A well-designed backbone can scale in organizations and make sure that it grows, allowing for additional new users, devices, systems without compromising the performance. It's very important to make sure that from a design perspective, future-proofing is there. And often in the cabling side, it's for today, not thinking about tomorrow, specifically around with the devices that change. We're looking every 6 to 8 months these days with standards as well. Ensure performance and reliability. It's optimized for high bandwidth and low latency, enabling mission critical functions like video conferencing as today, enterprise resource planning systems, and data analytics, which is a vital role these days. Resilience and redundancy. The networks of these days should be designed with redundancy, multiple pathways to ensure minimal downtime in the case of hardware failure or maintenance. Swapping out from one switch to another switch or a device to another device, you should never have to touch that backbone because it's been previously planned and designed well within for future proofing. So if we have a look at your backbone cabling, 2 essentials: balanced twisted pair and category 6A. So your balanced twisted pair cabling is supposed to be there to reduce electromagnetic interferences. The twist of the wires and balances twisted pair cable minimizes the EMI crosstalk by cancelling out the electromagnetic signals that can disrupt data transmission. So if in the installation not designed properly or the incorrect product's been put in, there's going to be internal noise. In the old days when we used to have a crossover, you're busy talking to a client and next minute you're talking to some lady sitting in Australia. Balanced twisted pair cables are engineered for differential signaling, which ensures that the data signals can travel longer distances with minimum degradation. This makes a reliable choice for backbone cabling that connects distant network segments. High data transmission rates. If we look at what the standard of Cat6 or from Cat5 to Cat6 of 1 gig at 250 megahertz, we now have Cat6A cabling, which is more of the standard to support new buildings that can produce up to 10 gigs of connectivity. And scalability and future readiness. From a standards perspective, twisted pair cabling towards standards like ANSI TIA 568 and ISO 11801, it ensures the compatibility of emerging technologies. So all the end devices, they continue to change, it's future-proofed and it's within the building. And naturally, the cost effectiveness. If you look at fiber optics versus twisted pair cabling, there is still a difference in pricing where fiber is a lot more expensive. You also got the expenses on the equipment, on the hardware, where transceivers are still a lot higher because we're manufacturing a lot more copper componentry that supports that within the medium distances. So from a Molex perspective, category 6A is the route to go now when future-proofing your building. Not today, as mentioned, we're looking to the future. So this supports 10 gigs for up to 100 meters, which is a standard, ideal for future-proofing, increasing data demands in today's requirements. Reduce crosstalk. We have a shielded solution to support crosstalk internally within the cable and externally at the high speed rates and performance these days. PoE applications, which I'll touch on a little bit more shortly. This is a big driver besides the performance requirements to the end devices, but now we're actually powering these devices. And it's not necessarily that, for instance, if it's a switch or a camera can support 90 watts, that the wattage is actually going to be received on the other end based on design, product, connectivity, patch cords, which also play a major role in that. Even supporting Wi-Fi devices. So future-proof is definitely the route to go if you start talking about Wi-Fi devices. Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, Wi-Fi 7, discussions around that, IoT and edge computing. So Cat 6A ensures scalability and naturally longevity. So standards compliance, Cat 6A is a standard. There is a standard that conforms to the way that the product should be manufactured. And from a Molex perspective, we also discuss a little bit later based on testing. How do you know the product or the solution works if you haven't tested it? So within the backbone, cabling infrastructure and why it matters, these are the facilities and areas where they play a vital role. Data centers, healthcare, education, more so hospitality, as we see the changes in how many devices that are being put into buildings these days. How do you track these? How do you make sure that they're working optimally to the requirements of the hardware? It's by making sure that you put in the right solution. Office networks, governments. You know, the backbone cabling these days provides stable connections for bandwidth intensive applications like video conferencing and cloud computing. Industrial environments, robust shielding for backbone cabling can handle interference from heavy machinery and electrical noise, which is external factors that can affect the impedance into the cable. So here you can see the changes over the many years of the simple devices of a thin client or a simple wireless access point running simple type 1, which is energizing 2 pairs over an Ethernet cable. We're now all the way through to 100 watts for video conferencing, TVs, you know, power over HD base T as a standard. What Molex does is we also engage with a lot of the standards boards to make sure that we understand what is coming through. Is Cat 6A still going to be the preferred cabling solution to support these? And the fact is it is. You know, we're passing Cat 6 into Cat 6A to handle the power over Ethernet requirements and definitely the performance. I'm sure many on this call at this stage is either somehow use some sort of documentation to have a look and see how they can implement not just the data from a performance perspective, but Power over Ethernet. Power over Ethernet has limitations. Doesn't necessarily say that you have a cable that can run 100 meters that it'll guarantee the performance, which is one. Secondly, sorry, sensors, yeah. Secondly, Power over Ethernet doesn't always guarantee that it's going to reach right to the end for that 100 meters. And it all becomes part of the design stage, calculations, having a look at the existing environment. What other services are running within that reticulation? Has the electrical contractor or the electrical designer given enough reticulation to support cabling and separate to higher voltage product solutions? So when looking at a cabling solution, compliance is obviously the most important part on this, is to make sure that when those devices are put in through there, that you have a reliable solution that can deliver as stated. So when engaging with a cabling manufacturer, make sure that they support you with third-party verification reports. Has this product and solution been tested by someone other than the manufacturer itself? It's a very simple, easy thing to do these days by someone bringing out a new product and solution, but has it really been tested to the standards and requirements in the industry? So make sure that you have a look at those reports. Reliability and performance. Has the solution been in the market long enough to be reliable? Is there a commercial side to this, that there's support within these countries and regions? You don't want to be looking at backing a product or solution. It's there for 3 years and then it's no longer there. So how do you maintain that standard in the building if you've chosen a solution that does not have longevity? This is obviously the standards and compliance from a 10 gig point of view, industry standards, 10 gig base T channel, link compliance in accordance to TIA 568C2. And then you'll get a lot of solutions out there that can only do a 2 connector channel. Now that for me states that there's not enough headroom or allowance within the cabling solution to support the requirements going forward. So anything from a 4 connector channel within the cabling is something you should look for future proofing, because we don't know what's going to be put on to that end device tomorrow.
Okay, Kevin, I think we are fast running out of time.
Yeah, I'm about done. This is it.
Okay, perfect. Cheers.
So just from a backing in a point of view, make sure that you get a warranty. If you've chosen an installation or chosen a solution, make sure it's backed up by the OEM that supports testing, floor plans, design, and that you can pull this off for 25 years. 25 years is quite a warranty to be placing on cabling. But remember, it's CapEx versus OpEx. Once that installation is, you should never have to change. Should not be any management changes if it's been designed correctly. And that is just a copy of a warranty of the support that is passed through to an end client to make sure that they got the assurance. And that's it from me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Very interesting and very in-depth technical review on what Molex can do for us. And I really do feel that I am Molex after that. So thank you, Kevin. I'm going to pull up a small poll for the audience with regards to Molex and at what stage of the project is structured cabling typically addressed in your experience. So please give us your thoughts so that we can then get on and have some further insights on what your understanding and what your requirements are with regards to the structured cabling solution that Molex has just presented to us. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Molex. That's very interesting stuff. I look forward taking on a few of those points during our discussion a little bit later. Right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all still with us and still fine. We're going to make some noise now with our next introduction. So we have from TOA Africa and TOA Corporation, we have Mr. Hakim Oyeleke, who's the regional sales manager for TOA Corporation, and he is going to talk to us today about integrated audio and evacuation systems for safer buildings. I think before we do that, we have a small video presentation for TOA, and then we will call Mr. Hakim onto the stage. Fantastic. I like that. TOA Corporation, we supply sound, not equipment. Okay, it's my honor to ask on stage Mr. Hakim Oyeleke. Hakim, the floor is yours. Please feel free to share your presentation and welcome on our webinar.
Yes. Thank you, Frederick. Just let me know when you see my screen. Okay. Okay, do you have it?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Oyeleke Hakim. I'm the representative for TOA in West Africa. So I'll be discussing with you integrated audio and evacuation systems for safer buildings, just like Frederick has introduced. About TOA, from the video, you all can see TOA is about a century-old company. We're actually 91 this year in Kobe, Japan. And we have been using sound and communication, majorly speakers, microphones, to do for safety and security. So we've been doing that for close to 100 years. And then we have presence in all over the world. TOA, we have different categories of products which we manufacture. So from the major one we are discussing, which is the voice alarm systems, we have intercom systems. If you know voice alarm systems, they are a one-way communication where information is broadcasted to you. Then we have intercom, which is a two-way communication also. We have that. We have normal public address systems. We also have for large venues, auditoriums, professional sound systems. Then we have wireless systems, IP audio solutions, and the rest. And being a company that has been existing for a long time, TOA is actually the first company that was certified in Europe for voice alarm systems, yes, in 2011. So, and virtually all the, where we are present in the world, we are certified in each country, like Japan, British standard, American standard, European standard. So TOA is actually certified all over the world. So wherever you want to use TOA solution, you can be guaranteed that you have a certified solution which you are presenting. You can also see a picture of one of the old speakers, what they used to be like for evacuation in terms of an emergency. Then you can see all over the years, the range of solution we've had. Speakers, megaphones, horn speakers, and the rest. So the beauty of TOA is wherever you look at in the economy, you need sound and communication. So transportation, house of worships, auditoriums, factories, mining, just name it. So TOA is available in virtual all parts of the economy. So we provide sound. Just like you said, we provide smiles for the public. Okay, so let's go into the integrated audio and voice alarm systems, which we want to talk about. So one of the solutions TOA has provided is one of our flagship, the VM3000 series. So it's a cost-effective system for medium to large, for medium to small sized application. So it's a very good system because it's an integrated system whereby you do both public address and voice alarm system in one. So usually you look at the amplifier, it's not just an ordinary amplifier, it's actually an integrated one. And it follows the standard, which I already mentioned, both the European standard, the American standard. So it is certified. When I talk about the standard, what does it mean? It means the system is tested and it is certified to operate in those environments. And what do they require that you do? They require that the system is automatic and it can be manually interrupted when there is need for emergency. That's one of the first things. Then the other thing is you must have a backup to the system in terms of emergency. When you're using your main power, when the main power is cut off, you need a backup to make sure the system continually runs. Then the other thing about the standard is that the system must not be stopped. It must continuously work 24/7, doesn't stop. So it's one of those conditions where those standards specify. And the other thing is it should be self-monitoring. That means the surveillance of the system itself. It should be able to monitor itself log the fault and log the reports whenever there is a problem with the system. So these are it's just one of those things the standards specify for each country. They are almost similar for whichever country you want to talk about. So this system is certified for those conditions in both all countries of the world. Then one of the main things is, apart from being a system that ensures safety, it also has a very powerful digital signal processing, DSP, for music. So when I say it's an integrated system, you have a public address system where you can use to make an announcement or do paging. You also have a system whereby you can do background music. Background music is like a music where you play continuously in a maybe building like an hotel. It's continuously playing. But this system is just one system. So how does it do? The background music is continuously playing in the lounge or in the restaurant, and everybody's listening to music and they're enjoying the music. Just like I said, it's optimized for such function. Then somebody can come in, interrupt to make an announcement. So you can make an announcement, then it stops the background music. Then the highest priority is when there's an emergency, when the voice alarm kicks in, then it stops all other function and it automatically broadcasts those messages which you've pre-installed on the preloaded on the system. So then the other thing is for medium to small size application. So when you want to make broadcast to in various areas in the building, so this system allows you to do from 1 to 60 zones. We call it zones. So in a layman term, different areas. Let's say an apartment building, you have a lounge, you have a gym, you have a restaurant, you have the apartment building, the rooms. So, and you want to make broadcast to various areas. So this system allows you to make broadcast to individual areas, which is from 1 to 60 zones. So this particular one you're looking at itself is just a 6-zone. It's just a 6-zone system, but you can have more extension systems to make it 10 amplifiers. So you have 60 zones. So it is very easy to install and very compact for design. Then the other thing is this particular system, it integrates with BMS systems via Modbus protocol. So building management systems. So for example, you don't have access to where you have the amplifier. So and you have a BMS which is monitoring the whole building where you have the system. So this particular system can integrate with BMS systems. And one of the core thing of voice alarm system is it's integrated with fire detection systems. That is the fire alarm. And this, many people don't know it. They will say, this is TOA, but we have another type of fire detection systems. No problem. In as much as it uses normally open or closed relay system or 24 volt, you can integrate with virtually any fire detection system, fire panels. And then you can see various areas where you can implement this application. So just like I said, this one system, this one amplifier, it does the public address system, it does the background music, which is playing continuously. And then when emergency kicks in from your fire panel, it cuts off the background music or announcement, then it goes into evacuation mode. So this is one of the solutions TOA has provided for safer building. Then we have the microphones which you can use to make those announcements. So this one here is the fireman microphone. So you put it somewhere strategic where the fireman, when there is a problem or an emergency, they can have access to this microphone remotely and make announcements to all the floors. But this particular one, you can see it has several buttons. So it can be in the reception or the control room whereby somebody talks to different areas of the building as the case may be. Then we have another one, which is the VX3000. It's an upgrade on the other one. So this one goes up to, you can see, it is certified, just like the other one too. It's an integrated system. So you have up to 1,280 remote microphones. What it means is that, for example, you have an airport where you have a lot of gates, maybe 100 to 200 gates, and you need to make broadcasts from individual gates when there is time to board the airplane. So this particular system allows you to make announcements from 1,280 remote microphones. You can have various audio sources, that means individual audio sources where you can broadcast. Then internal messages, you can save pre-recorded messages up to 1,204 messages. Then it has the speaker lines, 2,560 speaker lines. That means different areas where you can make individual broadcasts to, up to over 2,500 areas. So I don't know which application you need to make announcements to, where you need up to this, but you can do this, the capability. Then also the control input and output. So this is the triggers when there is an emergency. So you have over 5,700 triggers for input and over 2,800 control output triggers, which you can activate from the fire panel or from other sources, maybe for access control. Sometimes you can also want to, or like strobe light, all those things. So you need control input to control the activation of the voice alarm system. So you have all these control inputs that can do that for you. Also, this particular system is a decentralized or centralized system whereby you can put it on the network. So the other one, you can't do that, put it on the network, but this particular one, you can actually put it on the network, whereby, let's say you have a university where you have a lot of buildings and you want to ensure the cabling is not too much. So you can have a modular, a small system in each building, and you connect them via the network. So this is possible with this one. And also you can do pre-recorded messages onto it. Just like I said, you can do over 1,000 pre-recorded messages stored on this system itself. So you can activate those messages via the control signals, input or output. So then there is what we call the phased evacuation. This can be done automatically, whereby with emergency, so you can do like each floor, you do a phased evacuation for each floor. So whereby so that there won't be stampede or something. So in this situation, so you sequentially evacuate this the particular building. So you can have up to 30 steps of evacuating such buildings. So okay, before I go, you have various type of form factor. You can have a rack mounted or a wall mounted form factor for this particular one. Okay, so it's a modular system. Also, you can do self-monitoring, just like I've explained with the standard end-of-line monitoring, loop isolator. So different ways of self-surveillance for the system. So it also has a very good mixer, just like I said, the DSP, which I mentioned earlier. Then it has a different access level. So for a building where you have maybe a control room and you have various staffs who is monitoring the system, so you can actually give each individual their login and give them different access level to the system. Maybe this guy is able to edit the internet recorded messages. This guy is able to create some evacuation protocol or stuff. So all these things. So you can, depending on the education level of the staff, so you can restrict them to a different access level to access this system. It also has a GUI where you can use to control the system. Just like I said for the other one also, you can also connect it to the BMS through this Modbus protocol. So these are some of the two of the main system TOA has provided for integrated audio and voice evacuation system. So let's talk about another solution, the IP solution, because TOA is very big on IP. We are very big on IP. So this IP solution, it's a serverless solution. So this serverless solution makes it to integrate with various type of platforms. So for example, you can integrate with SIP telephone. You can integrate it with your IP control devices. You can integrate it with your NVR, your IP cameras. You can integrate it with your VMS because of the serverless nature of this solution. So you can integrate it with various solutions. So then you already have an existing network, and then like this is an example of a security pole. So it's connected. So this is controlled by the VMS from anywhere in the world. You can control it, or you can use a SIP telephone from anywhere and do the control of the system. It also has a gateway. So just like I said, it's a serverless system. So each speaker can be controlled, can be configured on its own. So that's the advantage of this one. So then if you have multiple speakers, then you can get the IP gateway to control various ones via multicast. So then you have the IP interfaces whereby you want to play music or you want to do some audio configuration. It also has its own microphone. So this is the IP solution from TOA. It's still the same thing. You can pre-record messages on it. You can do scheduling via, the scheduling is very robust. You can do weekly scheduling, you can do daily scheduling. For example, you have an IP structure, which you have your IP PA system. So you can do maybe a timer for like a school, break time and every other thing. So all those things, you can do that. Then the last thing I'll be talking about is the intercom, this smart intercom solution. So this one, he has enhanced security for your buildings, then communication, then video and audio solution. A lot of things you can do with this one. So it's one of the solutions TOA promote. So I think with this solution, you get a very robust IP, a robust audio and voice alarm solution.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Oyeleke. What a really interesting presentation, and of course, I like the smiles for the public. We produce sound. We don't just produce equipment. So thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation from TOA. I'm sure we will touch on some of the points that you discussed later in our discussion. We're going to pull up a small poll just to gauge the audience participation on TOA. Let's see that. So with regard to TOA Corporation, are emergency audio system and evacuation alerts standard in your projects? Please do give us your answers, and we will come back to those answers after the event. Right. I hope you're still all with us. Some incredibly interesting solutions that have been presented. We've got two more very interesting partner solutions that are going to present shortly, and then we will engage with all of our partners and the key stakeholders on our key topic of today. But so before we go to our key topic, I would like to present our next speaker. So from Axis Communications today, we will have Mr. Heino Hakke, who will give us an introduction on smart surveillance for real estate and industrial resilience. And I'm very happy to call Mr. Heino on stage. But before that, we have a small introductory video from Axis Communications.
We believe in making the world a little bit smarter, a little bit safer, by bringing innovative network solutions to market. We help people improve security and business performance. That's what we've done since our start in Sweden in 1984, and we've been a leader in the industry since then. Our innovative thinking comes from being curious about the challenges our customers face. That is how we find ever more creative ways to apply our technologies and products. We work closely and long-term with our partners, sharing experiences and expertise. Together, we solve our customers' needs to secure better living. In a culture of openness and respect, where we consistently apply ethical business practices, look for sustainable solutions, and make choices that embody our values. Today, we offer solutions in video surveillance, access control, intercom and audio systems, all enhanced by intelligent analytics applications to make cities safer, more sustainable, and better to live in. To help companies protect and grow their businesses and understand their customers better. To prevent incidents even before they happen. And to protect what matters most. Wherever life takes you, you'll probably find an Axis solution nearby. A reassuring reminder that a smarter, safer world needs all of us.
A great introduction. Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Heino. The stage is all yours.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for this great initiative. Yeah, it's really a cool way of doing a webinar. So, we share my screen quickly. and let's get into this. Good day, everyone. My name is Van Akker, and I am the Architect and Engineering Manager looking after the Africa region. And I'm connecting to you today from a very cold and very wet Cape Town. This is where I'm based, but still look after the whole of Africa. My primary function is I look after consultants. I assist consultants with solution designs, as well as keeping them up to date with the latest technologies, especially, and one of my fortes, and I'm very, passionate about AI. So today I'm going to discuss, what is driving the evolution of AI. Okay. So imagine if your security system could do more than just provide security, okay? Imagine that your security system can do a lot more than that. What if your cameras could boost productivity or increase efficiency and give you historical insight to plan for the future? That is what Beyond Security is all about, making your security system not just a grudge purchase, but a valuable asset that saves both time as well as money. Okay, so we are now in a new era of analytics. AI was a buzzword. It's not a buzzword anymore. AI play a central role in today's surveillance solutions. So with today's powerful processing capabilities, we can now run advanced AI analytics directly on the camera, on the edge, right? And this will give us quicker and more efficient insights. Our approach is to allow for hybrid solutions. We combine edge, on-prem, as well as cloud, right, to make the best mix of solutions. But before we get into it, some unknown genius somewhere once said that it is better to understand where we are going if we know where we come from. And so for that today, I'm going to look back into a bit of Axis history, a bit of a history lesson. Okay, so at Axis, we're proud of our long history of innovations. Okay, we've got a long history of industry first on the edge, especially when it comes to analytics. So in 1996, we invented the world's first network video camera. Okay, revolutionary. Okay, but with that came a lot of challenges. We needed a processor to process this data, okay? But nothing like that has been done before for surveillance. So in 1999, we decided early on to invest in the industry's first dedicated chip for video surveillance. And we decided to develop it in-house. The result was the birth of the RPIC processor. Now, RPIC stands for Axis Real-Time Picture Encoding Chip. The guys were quite funny back in the day when it came to, they always make long names and abbreviations. So because of this, chip that we developed, in 2000, we were able to develop the world's first Linux camera. And that was the birth of the world's first edge analytic running video motion detection in the year 2000 already, right? And back then it was completely revolutionary. And the same first camera that we developed back then was the best. Well, the best camera sold worldwide for 6 years in a row, actually. And then that led to our open access camera application platform. We're still the only guys that actually do this. So this is the ability for third party, to develop their own analytics and put it on the actual camera. We actually have a Play Store on our website an app store where you can download and install applications onto the camera so that you can make the sensor, better. And then we had many more first when it came to analytic. We're a bit pressed for time. I'm not going to go through everything. So I want to get to the key points. So in 2020, we launched the first deep learning version of Axis Octave Analytics, a deep learning AI analytic that runs directly on our cameras. And in 2021, we launched our first RPIC 8 processor, with accelerated deep learning and metadata support. And then this year, we launched the 9th generation of the RPIC processor, delivering even better AI performance, up to 3 times better than it had in the past. So now, of course, this is fantastic. But even now, again, a world's first. All Axis cameras that you purchase now are equipped with deep learning processing at the edge. Okay, so the question is, so why do we invest so much, in edge processing, and not server-based, for instance? Okay, it's simple. So when you run an analytic on the edge, you use the raw data, right, to analyze it, and you get more forensic detail. Also, analyzing on the device cuts network traffic by sending only what matters. Say, for instance, you've got a 4K camera, or we launched a 42 megapixel camera now. You don't have to send that data, okay, all the way to a server for processing. It processes it on the edge, so you save a lot on bandwidth. Okay. Also, it's real-time processing, so that ensures instant alerts with minimal delay. And of course, it's scalable. So think about this. You don't have to buy another expensive GPU power-hungry server for every couple of cameras that you want to deploy in your solution. You just add another camera and you've got the AI. So you're also making sure your investment stays relevant, because as your needs change and the world evolves, you can then easily add new AI analytics and features whenever you need them. Here you can see a list of our technology integration partners listed on our App Store. Partners can now build, of course, their AI analytics on access cameras using multiple programming languages. These aren't just features, of course. They transform cameras into smart sensors, delivering deeper insights and, of course, better automation. What's exciting is how far we've actually come. So 7 years ago, when I joined Axis, there were only a few apps on this App Store. Since launching our computer vision SDK in 2021, partners now have created hundreds and hundreds of innovative ACAP applications across industries. Here is an example of some of those. Let's click it again. So here is an example of some of those, just a handful. I thought, because we're talking about city and city infrastructure as well today. So this is quite a couple of nice ones. There's ones for road safety and traffic control, flood detection, littering detection even, and then even things like wildfire detection. And this wildfire detection is able to detect wildfires over kilometers in distance. It's interesting to see that these actual analytics runs on a camera. Okay, so we've talked a bit about our partner solutions. Now, what about, Axis's own analytics? Okay, so we've got many analytics under our umbrella. I mean, we are the first guys to do analytics on the edge. But today I want to focus on our flagship analytic, and that's called Axis Object Analytics, or AOA for short, and how it actually adds powerful AI capabilities directly onto your camera. So what does AOA do? It analyzes the entire scene all the time, okay? And then it classifies objects as humans or vehicles, and then also classifies what type of vehicle. Is the car a bus, a truck, and so on. Okay, this has many applications in security, safety, as well as operational efficiency. It applies a logic to it, and you can then run multiple scenarios in a single camera. It's also extremely easy to configure. And the best of all is it's pre-installed on all of our cameras at no extra cost. So now I have a powerful AI analytic on the camera. Now, the same as back in the day whereby you had motion detection on the camera, life has evolved. So now you have advanced AI analytics on the actual camera. Okay. So when we launched AOA in 2021, you were only able to do two things. You could do object in area. If a human or vehicle came into an intrusion zone, you could get an alarm, okay? Or line crossing. If the object crosses the line, you get an alarm, okay? But AOA keeps evolving. So what's happening is we've got a whole development team in Sweden that keeps developing new features for it, right? So if you purchase a camera back in 2021 that was, an Arctic 8 processor, for instance, when you update your firmware, as we develop, you get more features, right? Since 2021, you would have received things like time and area. Now, with time and area, you can see how long an object has been in the area. Say, for instance, a bus isn't supposed to be standing there longer than 25 minutes. You can get an alert. If a person is loitering, maybe at a hotel lobby, if you can get an alert for somebody to go and help that person, for instance. So it has many applications. Then we also launched cross-line counting. With this, you can count how many vehicles has gone through an area, bus, car, truck, a bike, etc., or even humans. You can, for instance, see at a mall how many people are going into the mall, for instance. They will also launch occupancy in area. Occupancy in area is also a very cool analytic. So here you can see how many objects are in an area. So if you look at the right, that video there, we're actually counting how many vehicles are in the parking lot there. So this can also be used for crowd control. If there's, say, more than 10 people in an area, or 15 or 20, then, you know, there's a crowd forming, it might be an issue. And then last month, we launched tailgating detection. Of course, everybody knows what tailgating is. So if two cars goes through a boom gate, one guy didn't pay, you can get an alarm, or even people that's going through a turnstile, for instance, things like that. So what we are cooking in the kitchen now is two other things. So we've got PPE monitoring, that's in beta now. And fall detection should come out in the next month or two, as well as heat mapping. So it's crazy to see how many technology has actually advanced and evolved from the 2000s, you know, when we had a simple camera with an edge with motion detection. Now the same camera that you purchase today has all of these features added to it. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, right? So Arlette also discussed a bit about this, about how you can take the data into a visual dashboard in today's day. So this is exactly what she was talking about. So all of these IOA scenarios that you can create on this camera, and you can create up to 10 of those scenarios in a single camera. So now I've got a single camera with 10 different scenarios doing 10 different other things, okay? All of this data, metadata, can actually now be visualized in a dashboard, right? So of course, this improves things like workflow. It optimizes resource allocation. It even supports strategic decision-making, like in cities, in businesses, hotels, retail stores, distribution centers, malls, really anywhere where you can put a surveillance camera today. You can now add additional metadata and then visualize what's happening in that scene on a dashboard, okay? So one such dashboard is the Access developed dashboard for Milestone Access Optimizer. It's also a free dashboard that pulls all of this AI metadata into the single pane of glass. Okay. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to show you a bit of a real world example of a city, a smart city, sorry. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the Victoria Alfred precinct in Cape Town. And for those who aren't too familiar with the V&A waterfront, it is one of the biggest and most popular destinations in Cape Town. It's a massive precinct. It covers, I think, over 138 hectares. It's got like 500 retail shops, 12 hotels, 7 museums, over 100 restaurants, business offices, and even like residential areas, and so on. So the V&A waterfront is one of the most visited destinations in Africa, and it's highly popular worldwide. It attracts more than 24 million visitors each year, making it one of the top tourist destinations globally. I checked the stats yesterday, and it's ranked the 7th most visited city in the world, actually. Okay, so the V&A is covered with access cameras. They're literally everywhere at every intersection. These aren't just for security, they're also doing some cool stuff with analytics. There you can see it, right? So what we do is we're taking the object analytics, and then with Redinium as well, another partner, we count the people and vehicles that's coming in and out of all the intersections in all areas. And then we classify also what type of vehicles are moving through these areas. What's happening then is the data from these cameras goes straight into a live dashboard where they can now monitor traffic congestion in real time. This way, they know exactly when and where to deploy extra security or traffic support. You know, that's super handy. There is also a sports stadium, the DHL Stadium. If you watch a lot of rugby, you would know that's the home of the Stormers. So, and this can hold around 55,000 people. Now, imagine if there's an event, a rugby game, and 55,000 people are gathering and going into this small precinct. It's a nightmare, a nightmare of traffic congestion and so on. So what they can now do is they can take the historical data that they've got, okay, and they can forecast the actual traffic patterns, and they know exactly where to deploy traffic police and so on to navigate and help with the congestion and so on. And even better than that, they can now see, even when there's not a rugby game on, normally how many people are driving right through the precinct, how many people are going to the waterfront, how many people are visiting, for instance, the business area. So they can see all of that data from a single place. And well, I'm almost done. 10 seconds to spare. So here's some final thoughts from me, okay? So we're seeing a fundamental shift happening currently, right? And I can tell you now, companies aren't keeping up, SIs aren't keeping up, right? We've got all of this tech that's in our devices, right? And we're almost above the curve. Okay, so surveillance is no longer just about security. It's about future-proofing your solutions today for the future. Your solutions are becoming a source of business intelligence and, of course, operational efficiency. This shift empowers us to unlock deeper insights, optimize operations, and create smarter and safe environments, whether it's in cities, retail, hotels, healthcare. I've named them all already, okay, but definitely. So, you know, any sector in your smart city today where you can put a camera up, you can now utilize all of these data and, you know, make smarter decisions for the future. Wow. And yeah, this was a very condensed slide deck, I know. Feel free to reach out to us if you want to have more you know, focused session. And once again, thanks, Frederick, for hosting us here today. It's been a fun session.
Yes, and what an amazing wealth of information and data you guys are collecting. I mean, I'm sure we can have a long discussion about all what your systems and your products do. And I'm sure there's interest created today with your presentation. I'm really excited. I mean, I find it incredibly invigorating. Just on a little side note, I was actually in Cape Town a couple of weeks ago. We walked through all the places that you've shown. So it's interesting to see that, you know, it's an actual working site, and it's deployed and very successfully so. I want to pull up a little poll for our audience, and please also do remember that at the end of this seminar, or at the back end of this seminar, we can share with you all these presentations and we can have a longer conversation on all these solutions. So for Axis Communications, how would you rate your current infrastructure's smart surveillance capabilities? Let us know where you stand in terms of that smart surveillance capabilities, and we'll be happy to have a further discussion on that. So thank you, Heino. I'm sure we will have a little bit more in-depth discussions in like 10-15 minutes when we start our discussion panel. But thank you for that presentation. I think last but not least, we are going to go to our last partner solution presentation for today before we have a nice little round table. And with us today is Mr. Samuel Johnson, who will talk, give us a little bit more insight in the smart surveillance of real estate and industrial resilience. Actually, he's going to give us an introduction into their campus setup from Huawei. So without any further ado, Mr. Samuel, I would like to give you the floor, and please present your Huawei campus setup. There you go.
All right. Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to some of us from the different regions who are joining. So permit me to share my screen. Thank you, Frederick, for having me. So can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yeah, what we're looking at here is going to be a very brief one for this particular slide. So, and today I want us to see how we can collaborate together with other speakers that have spoken, and some of the things that we've looked at as essential solutions for us to be able to have an entire ecosystem running on a smart campus, on a smart network, comparing, you know, to what we've seen over the years for traditional solutions. We've looked at the intelligence perimeter sensing for security, and how all of these things are going to be running and interconnected to each other is what I'll be speaking to essentially. So when you see campus, at some point in my presentation. I'm simply saying that either you are talking about your LAN side of the network, you are talking about your WAN side, you are talking about your production area, you are talking about the different aspect of a particular enterprise or a particular organization that makes up the entire network locally, internationally, wherever the regions are situated. That's what makes up of the campus network essentially. And in this journey today, part of the trends and challenges are some of the things that they've spoken about, but I'll still try to talk about a few of them here. So what you see here, you see the numbers of employees have increased greatly in some part of the world and some part of the enterprises that we've seen, even though there are needs for more of remote workers in some advanced countries too. But I think here in Nigeria, we still do more of the hybrid and we do the physical, being in office all throughout the week for some places. And then we also have research centers, development. This is very key to any business that would thrive in the coming days. And then we have different regions of the world. So based on all of these requirements now, so we would see that because of the requirement for the employees, we have different office scenarios, the open office, the meeting rooms, and then we also have the different requirement for each and every single of this area. So part of the trends that has been very visible over the years is one, wireless terminals are useful for us to be able to either connect the cameras, either to connect our terminal phones, our laptops, to connect our printers. Majority of the devices and end users now are already moving away from wired connection. So we do not necessarily have to get to plug our phones, our devices directly to a particular terminal before we can have access to the internet. This is a trend. Another one is video conferencing, and I'm glad we're having one now with over 60 to 70 concurrent listeners and participants on these video calls at the moment. So this is now the order of the day. And then we have operations and maintenance. So with the entire ecosystem, there's more of complexity when it comes to management. And with this complexity for even, the ELV, the PMS, the security sensing solution, with this complexity now, how can we be able to mitigate all of the challenges that comes with it, additional to the human, costs for management of all of this complexity? So the next thing is, with the growing challenges of all of these things we've mentioned for wireless users now, one of the very key features or very key technology that we've talked about lately in so many other settings and so many other meetings is the Wi-Fi 7. So Wi-Fi 7 is simply another generation of an access point. And for these access points or these generations of Wi-Fi, it simply just allows us to be able to accommodate more users because of the higher bandwidth that it gives. It also allows us to be able to accommodate, better speed for each of the devices. So you can tell from some of the devices that are being produced by other third parties like iPhone 16, Samsung S24, 25, Lenovo's laptop, HP laptops, and even some of the other third parties that are in the ecosystem generally. So these are basically the trends, or these are basically an advancement that allows us to be able to have a better experience on the network, essentially. So that's what we have here. Then how all of these things are connected together is what I've been able to put together in this slide here. So what you will look at here is there are different layers, and these layers are meant to provide some certain benefits and value to the ecosystem. So essentially, the backbone of the network now needs to be solid, and that's where you see where our core network here or core layer here is having more of a modular switch. This is applicable either you're talking about your carrier network, which is on the ISP side, or you're talking about the enterprise essentially too. So for the backbone network now, the requirement at this point in time, it is way beyond the regular 1G switches, because if you are to talk about, for example now, cameras and then backhauling of data into the MVR or IVS, whichever one you are using at the moment now, some of the requirements is that by policy, we should be able to trace some of this data back to to about 10 years ago or 5 years ago. That's storing of data. So because of this large traffics and large data that needs to be stored and that needs to be assessed, because sometimes it's a requirement for maybe an ongoing investigation can be ongoing, and then they just come in. And as an IT administrator, they ask you, can we get the footage from 10 years ago or 5 years ago? According to law, it varies based on different environment and countries. But I think by CBN policy and some other policy makers in Nigeria here, regulators now, some of us might not be up to 10, maybe 5 years. So in that moment now, it takes a very long man hours before some of these things can be pulled. And that's because of the legacy devices that are already maybe outdated and cannot be able to give that efficiency. So, but what we have here now, we have devices that allows us to be able to quickly get some of these things accessible and reachable within a very short period of time because of the backbone network that has been built with that capacity to accommodate future-proof, data that we are looking forward to. Some of us, we don't even have requirement for an 100G at the moment, but these are some of the things that Huawei is currently doing. We have them as a solution that is visible and that you can make use of, even if you don't have that requirement now, but should in case you get close. And then the next one, which is the one I want to talk about quickly, is the access layer. So this is where many of the convergence of, the other third-party solution comes in. So you have IoT system, majority of the hospitality, manufacturing industry, education industry. There's a lot of collaborations that are required for us to be able to have that smartness in the campus. Imagine coming to a meeting room and you don't need to come with, other than your laptop, you don't need to come with additional device for microphones, for video cameras, because everything runs on a network that allows you to be able to just project your system, or you join the meeting, bring BYOD, bring your own device, and you can just all join the meeting together because the network has been designed in a seamless way that all other third-party solutions are already integrated. So usually they happen at the access layer where many other devices can be able to sit on the network and can also be essentially managed together from that same layer. So with all of this now, the next one we want to look at is some of the differences that the access layer has been able to do over the time comparing to what we've seen before. So I have a Wi-Fi 6 generation of access points, and then I have the 6E and the 7, which is the current one that we are trying to, market into so many other environments, because this is already been, subscribed to when we talk about financial institutions. So let me just play this video. I don't know if you can hear my audio from there, but this is a video showing some of the distinctive, some of the features of the Wi-Fi 7 compared to the Wi-Fi 6. All right, so I played that video because of the experience that users are now guaranteed to have on the different layers of the Wi-Fi access points. Because now all things being connected through internet now, it brings about the challenge of high bandwidth utilization and consumption. So it means that whatever it is that you have within your environment now can essentially have a very continuous experience, not just you connect now, that's the keyword now. We are trying to not just ensure that you are connected to the network, but that your experience can be very, very continuous, in that you don't have an uptime today, you have a downtime tomorrow. And this is where this is also speaking to. In a video conferencing like this now, I believe so well that in some parts of in some part of the case we've seen over time now, we could be here and then somebody is speaking and you cannot even hear me clearly from that place, or maybe my video meetings are flickering. Yes, you just experience that, oh, this person is not able to proceed to the next slide. So these are some of the challenges that the entire solution end-to-end now allows us to do. So what you see here is, as it is, some of the video conferencing applications, some of the other requirements you have on your network are just meant to run based on what your ISPs are providing. But what we are proposing is that we don't want you to leave things to chances, so we can ensure priority over certain applications. And this priority now is to ensure that if yours is to ensure that your enterprise resource planning, maybe for people in the industry that does finance now, you can ensure that your core banking app, for people in the hospitality now, maybe property management system, your other solutions now, we can ensure that those key services can be prioritized. And by that, it means regardless of what the internet services looks like on different occasions, we can guarantee that those applications are going to have better experience and advantage over some applications that are just meant to be used by multi-users. So these are some of the upgrades, these are some of the things that comes with what we are implementing for customers and end users at the moment. So, but all of these things are there to ensure that you now can have better productivity and time to market. TTM is now faster and quicker. So that's what we do on the application experience upgrade. And there's this O&M that I spoke about initially as one of the trends and challenges. So for the O&M, this is a platform that allows us to be able to integrate several APIs. So talking about APIs now, of course, the ability to ensure that we can integrate other third parties into whatever software solutions we are bringing is the order of the day now. So we are open to ensure that your other third-party solutions for surveillance system can be integrated so that you can have one dashboard and you visualize everything from here. You can have multiple applications as you would see here. You see Microsoft Teams is here. You see our own internal application here. You see Zoom meeting and locations and sites. Everything can be on the same platform. And from this platform, you now can be able to ensure that you have visuals into the users, you have visuals into the terminals, you have visuals into the site to sites that are connected to your network. So you are not just monitoring one particular location. So it gives you that better granularity into multiple sites and multiple, devices and end users on the network. So this is a 360, achievement to ensure that no site is in a blind spot. So this allows us to be able to do this for all different solutions that may be integrated into what we are proposing here. Then this is also another one that just speaks concerning our hyper-converged solution. So for the hyper-converged, it is just a way to say that multiple requirements from different branches now can now be integrated into a seamless and single, branch, or sorry, into a single, management platform. So it means that from a particular branch or to multiple branches now, we can ensure that the administrator sitting at the HQ can be able to have that visuals and can be able to manage the other branches. So by that, it means that many of the branches you see today now, for most of the banks and some organizations now, they want to ensure that the HQ can have an oversight into them. They don't want them to just do things on their own when it comes to the network, when it comes to the users, when it comes to the endpoints that are being used in those places, because of the critical, infrastructures or critical things that they do based on data within that environment. So the HQ now has this solution running there and is interconnected based on the internet services that is running from one end to the other to be able to allow us to be able to have access from this branch now to the resources that is at the HQ. I can reach so many of the applications and services that are resident in a data center at the HQ, not necessarily even having to build my own data center here at a branch. So that's what this hyper-converged solution for multiple branches, for those that have that requirement and need to be able to have multiple of the resources from the branch level and the HQ level to be able to connect and to be able to get the same shared resources now. Now, altogether, this is a portfolio that just speaks to the fact that for us to be able to get these experience-centric applications and resources and network running, every single one of these portfolio you see here now are built to be able to allow us to be able to achieve that. So you see, we've categorized so many of the products and so many of the portfolios for the access points, which are meant for the wireless users and also for us to be able to have that fast and quicker connectivity. And then we also have that different switch requirements for modulars, for core, for access, for aggregation, for distribution. And then the last one is the router. So basically the gateway, this is very important. This is what allows us to be able to break out and then get to be able to point to other routes from one end to the other, even for us to be able to access resources outside of our LAN network. So this is just a very, very quick overview of the products and portfolio in summary to let us see that, okay, this is what we have and this is what we use to be able to achieve this solution. Yeah, these are just some reference customers for some of us that probably want to be able to know where these solutions has been deployed. This is a combination of local and international, customers that we've worked with as Huawei. So these are some of them for your reference points, and some of them that you probably may have stepped into their environment to see what they use. Yes, you can verify. You can even see some of them at a glance, maybe the access points now. So these are some of the combinations that we've been able to put together for the sake of our customers and then the end users and people on this meeting. So I think that's the end for the presentation. And then
Fantastic.
we can take Frederick. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Oh, that's, wow, incredibly interesting. And I like the interconnectivity and the seamless integration parts from one end to the other, and HQ-centered overview of all different branches and units. I mean, it is the future, and I really like your presentation because it really shows what it can be and what it should be moving forward. So thank you for your presentation. Again, for our participating audience, all these presentations will be available to you. Please reach out to one of our salespeople, and we will make those available to you and give you more information if required. With regards to the Huawei presentation, we have a little poll quiz for you. What aspect of campus networking is most critical to you today? Please let us know what you think and feel about that, and then we'll be able to share those results at the end of our seminar, or later we will share with all participants. So thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of our partner and solution presentations. I think what is now really exciting is that we're going to move into our discussion panel, something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. I'm really happy to have a lot of esteemed key stakeholders with us here. Of course, we also have our partner solution that are with us here, but I would like to set the stage and set the scene for our discussion about the ELV, critical ELV infrastructure here across West Africa. And with us today, we have Mr. Trevor Ward, who is the MD of W Hospitality Group, and who will be able to give us a little bit more on an investment development point of view perspective. We've heard a lot about the partner solutions. We've heard a lot about what can be done in ELV infrastructure. We want to just start this discussion maybe a little bit more from an investor and a developer perspective. So Trevor Ward, Trevor, welcome on board. Welcome to our panel. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Happy to have you here. So Trevor, let me jump straight into this. With many hotel owners now considering, brand conversion or switching affiliation from one brand to another, how are tech standards, because obviously that's what we're talking about today, ELV infrastructure tech standards, influencing the decisions? So what role does ELV partners play in ensuring a smooth transition into this switching and conversions?
Thanks a lot for the question. One must assume that anybody who is building or buying a hotel does so to make a return on their investment, and that includes servicing any debt that's involved in that asset. Now, having said that, not every owner is there to make a profit. Some of them are doing it for ego. No problem. I have no problem with that at all. It's a legacy for the family, for example. And as long as it washes its face, they're not there to get an IRR. But having said that, obviously a hotel needs to work, and architects can design a hotel, but architects don't necessarily know about what goes on behind that wall. That wall being between the public space and the back of house space. And inside the wall, which is an awful lot about what you've been discussing today, is what's actually inside the walls. So low trumpet is that it's absolutely essential that the team, the design team, understands what is required in terms of IT technology, ELV, hardware, software, and it's intended also to understand the cost of that at the very beginning of a project, because it can be significant. It can be in, you know, for a large luxury hotel, we're talking millions of dollars. Yeah, honestly, millions of dollars. I've seen for a project, 125 rooms, $5 million budget IT luxury hotel. So, you know, so without what you've been discussing, without this IT platform, shall we call it, without water, without heating, without light, without IT, a hotel's not going to work. If a hotel's not working, there is two things. One is it's not going to make a profit, and the other is that it's not going to retain or enhance its value. If it's not making a profit, some investors will say, okay, that's not what I'm here for. But the lender will say, I'm not going to give you the money if we can't see a profit coming out. And the other thing is, if your value is going down and down and down, at the end of the day, you'll end up with nothing. You'll end up with an asset that nobody is interested in, whether interested in staying it, operating it, or buying it at the end of the day. So it's just become such an essential part of an investment that, sadly, some of the design team and many of the owners don't understand. So, for goodness sake, it needs to be on the table at the very first early stages in concept design.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of rolls in very nicely to my next question. I mean, since there is a shift from greenfield to brownfield and this conversion project across the region, how critical is it to engage ELV experts and professionals early on, particularly when you're trying to meet, like you said, the global brand tech standards?
Yeah, if you look at what's going on in the States these days, the big international chains, Hilton, Marriott, I mean, all of them, they are increasingly looking to brand or rebrand existing hotels. They call it conversions, and they need on a hotel which has connectivity with their distribution systems. Increasingly, the Hiltons, the Marriotts, the Choice, the Wyndhams of these days are brand owners. They're not operating as many hotels as you might think. Hilton's global estate is about 85% franchised. In other words, they don't operate, but they still need the connectivity if they're to do what a franchisor does, which is deliver business to the hotel through their systems. And that, okay, 50 years ago, it was done by a call center. Yeah, somebody would ring the central reservation system, and some way that reservation would get to the hotel. That doesn't exist anymore. That today it's got to be compatibility with that brand's systems, and that can mean changing. It can mean changing your IT, maybe not the hardware, but certainly the software, in order for compatibility. And there's a cost. There will be a cost involved in changing brands. And if you have a greenfield, if you have a new build hotel, again, the brand is going to bring their very clear specifications of what you must have. It's not just the size of the bedroom. It's not just the color of the reception area. It's not just how the menu is written. It's also the connectivity with all their systems, in order for them to do what they want to do, which is either operate the hotel if it's a management agreement, or more frequently, as I say, to actually generate revenue.
Okay, thank you. And in your experience, at what point during conversions or during new build of developments, in your experience, what is the best time for ELV professionals and consultants to come on board on those projects?
Well, it's early. It's not right at the beginning. At the beginning, it's a concept design from an architect, and an elemental costing from a surveyor, putting in round figures for the FF&E for the IT, for example. But as the design moves in from early concept to schematic designs, then the IT needs to be there to be able to get the specifications right, but from my point of view as an investment analysis and advisor, is the costing. How much is it really going to cost? Having had a thumbs up from the quantity surveyor, we now need to move to the next step to actually get that figure crystallized.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thank you, Trevor, for joining us on this panel. I want to move this discussion a little bit further and a bit forward. So when we go from now investors, we go then to the implementation and the integration of realities. With us today is from Lambert Electromech. We have Mr. Tope Oloidi, who is the strategic head of Lambert Electromech. Tope, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Fred. I'm doing very well. Yeah.
Thank you for being with us here on this webinar. Let me jump straight into it. So from an MEP contractor's point of view, which Lambert Electromech is very much renowned for, is how often are ELV systems factor into early stage coordination with mechanical and electrical packages, and where do you see the most friction or oversight?
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, just like Trevor mentioned earlier, you have either a greenfield, which is a new build, or you have a conversion, which is a brownfield. In any of this way, the MEP, like we used to call it in Lambert, is the life to the building or to the facility. The building and the facility might be regarded as the body. So we said bringing life to great structures, bringing life to buildings, to hotels, to all these facilities. Without the cooling, without the electrical, without the pipe services, the building is just going to be like that. But I dare say that also the ELV is the soul to the building, to the body. So the life and the soul are the MEP and the ELV, especially in today's world, where we are looking at the smartness of our building, the responsiveness of our buildings. And like Trevor mentioned, once you leave the concept designs, once you leave where the ideas are generated, you'll be looking at your spaces now, what to do with your spaces. So back to your question, I think the ELV should come in as early as when the MEP is coming in into play, especially when you're looking at a design and build or an EPC type of contract, or even the conventional type where the consultants are putting all these things together. It's important for the ELV team to come on board. Usually, because they don't come so much early in the project, you have some frictions that do happen. One of it is a space allocation. You know, when you put a shaft in place for everything to run. I mean, earlier today, we've got presenters talking about structured cabling, so talking about access control and BMS and all that. This needs infrastructure. This needs backbone for them to work, and you need to allocate spaces for them. So if an ELV team comes in early, coordinations become easier. I mean, you know where to put your containment, you know where to put your routing, you're looking at your spatial planning, you're looking at your ceiling voids and avoiding congestions and vertical rises. These are important early in the building design. Also, when you bring in the ELV integrators early into a project, you're looking at a flexibility of retrofitting when you're looking at a brownfield project, when you're looking at conversion, like Trevor mentioned, an existing hotel, an existing hospitality facility that needs to be upgraded. You need to look at the flexibility of adopting all the ELV systems early. Also, when you look at demarcation issues, especially when it comes to MEP, ELV systems, you're looking at congestion in ceilings, in ducts, in infrastructure, especially required for BMS systems. It's important to avoid all ambiguity for the two of them to come in early, and it helps every other stakeholder in the build environment, the architect, the cost managers, the quantity surveyors, even the structural engineers that are designing the building, for them to know how to properly apportion spaces, coordination for both the MEP and the ELV team.
Okay. I mean, that's really interesting. I really liked your life and soul of a building with MEP and ELV. That's one that's going to stick for me for a long time. But to continue on what you were saying, in large scale projects, ELV, I mean, from our experience, is often treated as a last mile addition. So what are the risks of this approach from an MEP contractor's angle?
Yeah, Fred, it's like I mentioned earlier, going really quick. There are some projects that I've seen in recent times. There is an hospitality project going on in Benin City in Nigeria, for instance, that 21st Century is also involved in. That's the Museum of West African Arts, where it's a one of a kind in West Africa, and the commissioning will happen soon. In this project, as an example, for instance, both the MEP team and the ELV team, which yours team and my team, came in early, and because of that, we're able to avoid rework and clashes during installation, because we're able to design to the preciseness of what we require on site. So variations were avoided. I mean, both of us were able to harness our efforts together. Also, it helped for testing and commissioning. We were able to plan together how to implement different aspects of testing and commissioning of different ELV systems in collaboration with the MEP works. Also, the building intelligence, we were able to use the building information management, the BIM together. We're able to use our design collaborations together to avoid all these things that could have delayed the project. And there was, from the project management perspective, we were able to save 6 weeks in the project because we did this early enough. So if we come in early on a project together, MEP, ELV team, with all the aspects of ELV, like you mentioned, which your partners mentioned today, Tower, Salto, every one of them. If we put all those things together early in the project, integrate it with the MEP, we would be able to gain more time.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your insights, Tope. I mean, I really do appreciate your input here and your experience. And I really do like the collaboration that Lambert Electromech and 21st Century Evolution Systems have developed over the years. And I really look forward to continuing that and roll out many more successful projects together. So thank you for participating with us today. I want to move this discussion a little bit from the MEP and the investment part to the actual ELV design, the interoperability and the strategy. And with me on the panel today is Mr. Ayola Ajuwon, who's our General Manager at 21st Century Evolution Systems. I think Mr. Ayola will give us some really good insights and experience into the ELV design, the interoperability, and the strategy of ELV solutions. So welcome on our panel, Mr. Ayola.
Thank you, Fred.
I wanted to ask you, so how do you approach balancing all these global technology standards from all these hotels and from the projects we work on with the realities of infrastructure limitations or regulatory framework across West Africa?
Okay, thanks, Fred. I think one of the most important aspects of it is assessment. You will agree with me that Africa and indeed the region is still far off in terms of standards compared to the rest of the world. One of the things we've done over the last few years as an organization is to ensure that we carry out an assessment across board. What we found has also been clear that in many parts of the region, especially in West Africa, relevant technology standards either do not exist, or where they do, the level of implementation and compliance are remarkably low. You only need to walk into many establishments across West Africa, and even taking CCTV as an example, what you will find is systems are there, installed, but not functional or do not meet the required standards. Interestingly, many of the speakers earlier, especially Toa and Molex, spoke to standards, global standards that some of the equipment need to meet to be certified. And apart from the fact that there is a lot of intense work, investment in R&D, and a lot of time-consuming exercises that need to be carried out in order to get this system certified, we still do not have many of them working as they should, or have them working at all in the region. It's a critical part of what we need to do. However, it is not only a problem with the customer or the project owner. It's a holistic problem. And what do we have to do? First, sensitization and education. You'll recall that over the last 2 years, 21st Century as an organization has put in a lot of effort into directly speaking and engaging to stakeholders, clearly and practically, to adopt standardized systems. And today's program is also one of such, just to strengthen the conversation and ensure that the knowledge is out there for people. You'll find basic scenarios like a client wanting to buy a cable, let's say structured cabling, for instance. We are speaking about a cable that is Cat 6A and a Tier 1 cable. And you get them saying, oh, why are you charging $200 when I can get it for $50? Customer clearly doesn't understand the requirement and doesn't understand that what they have is substandard product or inferior product. So the education is very important across board. And this is why we have positioned ourselves to ensure that we continue to educate the stakeholders and key industry players and ensure that they have the understanding of what is required standard-wise.
Okay. So, I mean, this runs in perfectly to my next question with regards to that is like, what practical steps should project owners, with whom we interface, take to ensure that the ELV systems are not only well designed, but also future ready and interoperable?
Okay, good question, Fred. So the first thing I would say is project owners need to be clear with their vision and brief. It's very important. A lot of owners, even during conversations, are not clear about what they want. Vision is supposed to be very clear so that we can assist. Another point is that we need to come up with a technology strategy with them at a very early stage. Mr. Oloide also spoke to that. Trevor Ward also spoke to that. It is important that we align strategically as it relates to technology and what they are trying to achieve. Then we speak about design. This is a critical part of the implementation and the part that is left till later. This part of the conversation must be from the beginning when we are starting the early stages of conception. We need to start talking about design for the ELV system. And then solid infrastructure. It is very, very critical that infrastructure cabling and everything around the infrastructure, which is the bedrock of the entire deployment, is solid and well thought out. When I say well thought out, is to speak to the future as well. You find that many projects, especially in the region, even when infrastructure is well done, they don't have the future in mind. They just think about what is required right now. And then 3 years down the line, there is a lot of requirements. And what do they have to do? They have to start looking at an opportunity to close down the property in order to repurpose it. But during the design stage and during the the infrastructure stage, if we think critically about where we want to be in the next 5 years, next 10 years, then it's really important. And at that stage, we can properly plan what we want to do and think about the future, think about scalability as well. And that's why you have partners like Molex on the program as well, because with partners like this, we are able to design together. 21st century, our system integrators are not standing alone. We're standing with every single partner in the room to ensure that the knowledge is there, the experiences are there. And like you said, Fred, it's not a one-size-fits-all type strategy. Every single environment is different, and we must design and implement every single environment based on what is required and for now and future. Last 2 points before I stop is one, documentation and as-built drawings. What we find critically missing over the last few years is that we see customers who have edifices, but there are no documentation. So even when there is need for growth, you don't know where to start from. No cable reticulation, no designs, no as-built drawing, nothing. You're just running on blanks. And finally, maintenance. There is a big need for the culture shift from a non-maintenance environment that we have found ourselves to an environment that critically respects maintenance. As a company, we have positioned ourselves over the last few years to also show that value to clients. So when we deploy, we tell them we want to also maintain for them. We are not going to make deployments and run away. We want to stay by our deployments and ensure that they actually work. So what you find is in this region, many deployments are happening, but how many of them are working? And it's down to maintenance. At the first break or the first issue, everybody just looks away and nobody cares about fixing the issues. Nobody cares about how the system works or if the system is even operational. And then the entire purpose of having these systems in place is now defeated. So the last point for me is maintenance. We need to grow that culture and get the project owners to also understand that a little budget, after all of this fancy spend and multi-million-dollar investment, a little portion of that should be kept for maintenance.
Okay. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, involve ELV consultants and ELV professional early on into the stage, have an open discussion, a really good conversation on what you want, where your pain points are moving forward. And then most critically, and this is basically what we're talking about, resilient infrastructure is having a maintenance culture that really ensures that all these implemented ELV solutions are well taken care of, well set up, and give you the ROI that you really look for and the longevity of what these solutions are designed for. So thank you very much, Mr. Ayola, for that. Mr. Ayola just brought up an interesting subject with regards to structured cabling, and we already talked about that with Molex a little bit earlier. But I want to bring Kevin back onto the panel because I think it's a very interesting topic. So, Kevin, thank you once again for being with us today. Can I just throw something at you? It's like, as global infrastructure cabling leader, how does Molex see the role of structured cabling in delivering resilient and future-proof infrastructure in emerging markets, which we are in today?
So yeah, that's an interesting question, but thank you very much for that. So obviously from a role perspective, as a tier one brand, as Molex, we look at supporting the industry, and also obviously, look at the West as what we've done in South Africa, is with scalability and flexibility. A structured solution, as Ayola had pointed out, that, when there's an investment into something like that, it is done once off. Ideally, if planned correctly, and also talking about the time when an OEM is brought in from a structured cable perspective, because it's the demands that it's going to be tomorrow because we don't know. I mean, the switching environment side, the end devices that the panel's been talking about, you can see the advancements in these solutions, and you've got to make sure that the IT infrastructure is there to do that. So reliability and efficiency. We don't want to be having to come back later on because we've chosen the wrong solution to install. As a lot of the times with the hospitality area and facilities, it's closed up. The architects, it's about what it looks like and the feel. So once it's closed up, and also Trevor mentioned, it's behind the wall. So we want that efficiency and reliability of a solution once it's been done. And I mentioned already future-proofing with the high demands. And we talk about 5G, everyone talks about IoT. This is important now for emerging markets to grow where they have the potential to do this from today, as opposed to the old legacy. We need to change that whole sort of mindset and concepts on that side. Smart infrastructure has played a really big role in this, as we're talking about. Walk into a building, hospitality, and it says, "Good day, Kevin McDonald," straight into this room, the lights shine, goes to your room. It's got already understands the temperature that you walked into, it understands you. So, these are all things that are starting to make things a lot easier for the hospitality side. So that's where we get in, we support from a beneficial side, understanding the solutions required, not today, but tomorrow.
I think that what you just said features very well into my next question to you. I mean, we talked about lots of talking and communication without design and then the implementation, but can you speak to the common risk or inefficiency when cabling is not really aligned to early with the ELV scope in a project, when basically the one is not talking to the other?
Yeah, sure. So I think the major one then, it covers on many fields, is cost. The cost when it comes to redesigning and reinstalling, labor costs, having a look at someone to come through, and also specifically as that specific person that's coming out there trained up to do the work and the quality that's needed to keep in the future side. Changes to cabling, besides just labor, it's additional cost for new product that you need to then reinstall. So, and this becomes a major part of the risks involved with not choosing the right solution, and also secondly, not talking to the right people, being pulled in at the right time. Those I foresee as the sort of obviously the major challenges in having to upgrade to support the solutions and the suppliers that you've spoken about, John, have had the opportunity to showcase their solutions.
Well, thank you for that, Kevin. I mean, that makes. I mean, it really makes sense. If you don't talk to the right people at the right time and you don't lay out your expectations, your basic infrastructure will not carry what your future expectations are if you don't merge the two. So thank you very much for your contribution, Kevin. I want to move a little bit from the infrastructure now to some of the solutions that are on top of this infrastructure. And I think one which is really important in ELV solutions and infrastructure is everything to do with emergency systems, audio and communication. And Mr. Oyeleke from Akim from TOA really, he already touched on that a little bit more. So Akim, I would like to call you back onto the panel, if you don't mind. Yes. And are you still with us? Yeah,
yes,
fantastic.
I'm with you.
Okay. Yes. So Akim, let me just ask you, like, how have emergency communication needs and sound solutions evolved in today's infrastructure projects? And what role does early ELV planning, like we discussed about earlier now, play in these projects?
Yeah. Thank you, Fred. Thank you everybody who has contributed. Just from the end of your question, the planning, I mean, Tokwe and what they've discussed a lot about ELV early planning, having clarity on the requirement and the scope of what you want. So this helps a lot in planning the emergency solution for buildings. So this is really important. So when you sit down with a client and you are able to understand what they really need in terms of the communication and equipment in the building. For example, do you want background music in this area? Do you want sound in the room or you don't want them in the room? All these things, when you discuss with the client, then you have more clarity. A scenario like where you have just sounders in the buildings, and you talk to the client, okay, you have sounders, but you also need a voice to the emergency situation. But the client might not understand it. So I'll tell you, okay, most people when they hear sounders, they just feel like, okay, it's just sounders. It's a common thing. But when you have a voice to such emergencies, so when an emergency comes on and somebody is broadcasting, okay, there is a fire on the first floor, we are investigating, please be calm. So when you hear this, you are more serious about the situation at hand. So this is some of the planning. So you have clarity on what you want and the scope which you want to go with the emergency and the sound system in the building. Then the other thing is imagine sound requirement and emergency in the buildings. One of those things is the IP solution, which TOA is really doing. A lot of people are going full IP. They said, okay, we don't want to do normal conventional cabling. We want IP solution. So this is one of those areas TOA has really tackled. So you have those IP solutions which can integrate with either IP control system, or you can integrate with SIP systems, or you can integrate with OMVIF systems. So all these systems are common systems. So these are some of those emerging situation and infrastructure solution. Then the other thing is the BMS. Managing the BMS with a PA system. Sometimes some people say, okay, I don't want a standalone PA system. How do I integrate it with the BMS solution? So in this situation, we try to give them guidelines on, okay, this is what is possible. You can actually mute the music if you want it from the BMS. You don't need to go to control room where you have your amplifier and other things. So all those things, you put it into consideration. And also, they are also emerging in this infrastructure these days. Before now, people just put an amplifier in the building and they put the speakers and it is just playing music. You don't know how to control it. You don't know how to mute it. But when you talk today now, all those things are emerging. So we tell them, okay, this is what is possible. This is what you can do with PA and emergency situation in the buildings.
Okay, I mean, you talked about a lot about integration. So how can TOA system align with seamlessly with the broader ELV framework across the sectors, like in industrial or in hospitality projects?
Thank you. So during my presentation, I mentioned something when I was talking about the VM3000. Most people don't know TOA can actually integrate with virtually all voice fire detection system, in as much as it is relay and you can do open and close, you can integrate with them. So virtually all fire detection system, TOA can integrate with them seamlessly. And also I mentioned about the BMS solution. When that uses Modbus protocol, it's a standard protocol in the industry. So when you have such system also, you can easily integrate with them. So in as much as the system is a hardwired system, TOA can virtually integrate with almost all the systems you have on the market. So this is it makes the integration seamless. Then I mentioned about the IP solution also. It's a serverless solution. So what you need is, if you have let's say your central system is a SIP system or uses OMVIF or uses IP control system. So TOA IP solution easily integrates with this solution easily. Like for example, you have your VMS there and you want to control your IP speakers. What you just know is just get the IP address of your IP speakers, put it on the VMS, and from your VMS, you can actually talk to your speakers from anywhere in the world. You can be in the US and controlling a system in Lagos easily. Then also, what do you call it? Motion detection and every other thing. Our control input and output, just like I said, they are open and closed, really open and closed. So easily you can integrate with other solutions. So TOA is a system that is widely it has wide integration with a lot of solution. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that, Akim. I mean, it's been very, very insightful, and I'm sure our audience will also see that having interconnectivity between different ELV solutions is really key, and having a partner that can help connect the dots and put them all on one infrastructure is basically the key to success. So thank you for joining. So let me now move to another aspect of ELV solution, go to access control system, and we discussed this earlier with John Walton from Salto Ecosystem. John, let me call you back onto the main stage, talking about access control systems and future integrations. Where is access control headed in terms of integration with building automation and cloud platforms?
Thanks, Fred. All right, so to start with, most building automation solutions or systems are integrated easily with Salto. We've got patches in our software, which makes it available. We also have a look at, besides the cloud for hospitality, still on-premise at this point. But just to get back to the interoperability of technology, 5 to 10 years ago, we would have a look and get a call, I need a lock for a door. I still actually get those today. But you have to think further, because you could just put an RFID lock on the door and it would work with a card. Today, you need to find out what's in the room, what subsystems do you have, how do you connect to it, can you future-proof it by bringing it online, how do you bring it online? And it's easy, just run another VLAN, and then the hotel investor looks at it and says, but I've got all these dishes and boxes on my ceiling, it looks like a broadcast station. So what we do is we look at the actual manufacturers for wireless networks, and we talk to these guys and incorporate a portion that we can ride on their network, so that we don't have to run virtual networks, and we can actually piggyback onto theirs. So this is how we're cleverly thinking to bring future-proofing BLE locks, to bring them online through other apparatus and devices in the hospitality space. The cloud platform is a bit different, but just to get back to the on-premise solution, we must probably looking at, it's our largest deployment and hot seller, I would say, in our portfolio. A lot of people are scared to let go of data. The server is owned and resides with the actual property, and they're still worried about having it in the cloud. And today, everyone is using the cloud. When you make a transfer to pay a bill, you're using a cloud solution. It's not walking into a bank. So the mindset has to be changed and adopted. We see that also with the cloud platforms, that it's well received across all the verticals that we sell cloud solutions to. And a strong growth in the residential space shows a sharp increase in the user adoptability. People want things quicker, faster. I want the palm of my hand to take my mobile and open the door, for instance. I don't want to have a card. I go to work. Do you leave your phone at home? You'll turn around and go fetch your phone. You leave your card. Hello, Mr. IT, can I have another card? So your spending becomes more expensive. There's the extra cost, and it's easy to say, I need more, where mobility is the way to open, bank, to do whatever you need to transact with. So we make sure we aligned with the sub-manufacturers. It could be anything from a guest room management system. It could be a thermostat. It could be anywhere. We make sure that we are always tying into the latest and greatest, so that we're not left behind, and that you can turn around 25 years from now and say, we still have a lock from Salto in operation, because our systems are backwards and forwards compatible, which means we don't leave the old RFID behind. We can bring it in line with gateway nodes and let it reside on a BlueNet network, for instance.
Like that. So I like the back and forwards compatibility with future-proofing solutions. I also like the fact that you said that your solution is integrated with other third-party solution provider, like on the wireless network. You brought up an interesting point with the mobile. So I mean, everybody is now glued to their phones, as so to say. So what role do you see mobile or wireless and keyless technologies playing in future infrastructure resilience?
All right, so the wireless technology already is current. It's available across all our platforms. So we've adopted that, and that's the future and the way the technology is heading. We've also seen that some of the products have fallen by the wayside. For instance, energy savers in rooms no longer require cards, because if you arrive there with a smartphone, where would you put your phone to trigger the lights and air conditioner to switch on? So we've now seen, okay, there's more wireless application in the room, and the energy savers would fall away, the hardwired card systems. The mobility also gives you the check-in facility, so that if you are regular, and this is something that a hotel can decide, if they want regulars that stay there, just go straight to the room and check in on the door. So the mobile gives you that ability, but it also gives you online checking. So you could have a standalone lock on your generator room outside, which is a padlock. It's Bluetooth, but no one sees it. But the minute a maintenance manager opens up the room with his cell phone using mobile key, it will give a live audit through the GSM network to the front desk. so that you get an online audit from an offline device.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, John. I think very interesting points and I mean, obviously you have a really interesting solution. I'm sure a lot of our people that are participating to the webinar or listening to the webinar will have more questions. So after this webinar, we will make you and all our other panelists available to them through 21st Century for more questions and solutions. Thank you, John. Let me now shift our discussion a little bit more to another ELV solution that we discussed before, which with Axis Communications. I mean, surveillance and analytics for proactive management. I mean, this is really something which is incredibly invigorating and very interesting to talk about. With us, we have George Mutai from Axis Communication, who joins us all the way from the other side of the continent, from very nice and sunny Kenya. Hi, good afternoon, George. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Fine, thank you. Thank you.
Good. Let's jump into the surveillance and analytics side of ELV solutions. We've talked about a lot about the need of talking to consultants and professionals in terms of scoping projects. So, in your opinion, what are the risks of underscoping or descoping surveillance systems during project development?
That's a very good question, actually, because there's actually a lot of risks in underscoping, and we've found some of the system integrators and even end customers trying to descope and underscope, but then it brings in a lot of issues. For example, security vulnerabilities. You could find that you will have blind spots when you reduce the number of cameras or sensors that can leave critical areas unmonitored. There's also, things like delayed response. You have limited coverage. Now that can result in slower detection of incidents. There's reduced deterrence. Inadequate surveillance can embolden criminals or, unauthorized activity because they know there's no camera here. There's blind spots there. Even moving even beyond that, coming to compliance, I mean, we've talked about a lot of regulatory violations. Some industries, especially banking, hospitality and hotels, they have strict surveillance requirements, so underscoping may lead to non-compliance. Even when it comes to auditing and getting some of the ISO certifications and all that, it covers all this. And then, of course, there's also increased long-term costs. Because if you try to retrofit, it becomes expensive. Expanding or upgrading a descoped system later is usually more costly than designing it correctly from the start. Even when it comes to downtime, the post-deployment adjustments, inefficient resource use, you may still incur baseline costs, for example, licenses, server infrastructure, without, maximizing the value. And then there's also a very important issue where it comes to operational limitations, because when you have poor integration, scaling up later might result in some patchy work. It's harder to maintain, it's harder to manage. There's inadequate analytics. My colleague Heino talked about analytics. Fewer or lower quality sensors may not support advanced features, like, for example, even facial recognition, behavior analytics, LPR, So there's all these issues that rise. One more thing I think, which is also important, is, it also affects decision-making impact. Say, for example, if you have fewer cameras, the scoped system, now you have incomplete data. My colleague showed, dashboards and, analytic metadata. Now, when you have fewer systems, you have less footage, you have less metadata context for investigating incidents and optimizing operations. So you have then resulting to delayed insights, you have reduced visibility. So all this really affect the system when you descope or underscope solutions. Yeah.
I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, if you do scope or under scope, you're not going to get the full benefit of what the ELV solution or your system is designed to do for. It's, I mean, you and both Heino, you brought up these smart analytics. So, you know, how are these smart analytics really changing the role of video from, you know, because before you had passive monitoring, so now you're basically moving from passive monitoring to proactive management.
Now, that's a good question, actually. So, for example, let's look at where we're from, the analog and the old way of working and handling CCTV systems. We've moved from the traditional systems that relied on human operators who really have to sit and watch screens and, you know, monitor feeds, which is really time consuming and they're prone to errors. It's the guys who are working for the system instead of the system working for you, you know, and it's very impractical for critical infrastructure, you know, large scale deployment systems. That is, that's the old way of doing things. And then of course, using smart analytics. My colleague Heino showed you, you know, one camera that can do multiple scenarios, you know, using AI and machine learning to interpret video in real time. So it recognizes patterns, detecting anomalies, and, you know, generating alerts automatically. So instead of, for example, a very good example is instead of waiting for someone to report a theft, you know, the system can detect unusual movement in a restricted area and then alert security instantly. Then you also have real-time alerts, which enable rapid response. You know, we're moving now even into predictive and preventative capabilities. That's what this brings into the table. And one of the outcomes, this now moves surveillance into risk management and operational intelligence territory. Now it's moving even to give you operational insights beyond security. Gone are the days where the camera is just there for monitoring, playback, live view. We've seen that it can give you a lot more information than just video. You can count people, you can, you know, queue management, heat mapping, workflow optimization, business intelligence. In fact, I dare say that there's a lot more requests for access for business intelligent operation. Of course, there's the security aspect, but we're seeing a rise in business intelligent requirements using video. Okay, so I mean, and there's so many use cases in different verticals across the board. Yeah,
I like that. I mean, the use of smart analytics to improve operational management. I mean, it makes total sense, and it's nice to see that the technology is really moving towards that side, and AI is having a big influence in that. So thank you for that, George. That was really interesting input. Again, incredible solution that you bring to the table with a lot more we can discuss. But I want to take the Access Communications to one of your key stakeholders and key partners as well, which are with us today, which is Milestone. We will then move from basically the analytics into the VMS and the open platform flexibility. So today we had with us Mr. Llewellyn, Davis from Milestone. I apologize, my tongue rolls a little too fast sometimes. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, and how are you?
Very good. We've got already incredibly interesting discussions with some of your partner solution providers, but I want to focus a little bit on Milestone and the VMS part of it. I mean, Milestone is known for an open platform VMS. How critical is this for long-term infrastructure resilience?
Yeah, it's a topic that's very close to our heart. It's something that I can talk about for hours, but I won't because I see we're running out of time. But I think the best way maybe of getting the analogy across is like something that we're all familiar with. So it's food, or it's cooking. So the open platform is really critical, because if you have a closed platform, it's like a child's meal. So when you're a child, you eat what's in front of you. It's convenient, but you take what you get. If you don't like the flavor, you can choose not to eat it, but then you you're going to go hungry, and you're also going to get a punishment, right? So the way I see it is an open platform is like an adult's kitchen, and it's a well-stocked market that's linked to it. We can choose to have fast food. We know it's not good for us, but you can also go to the market. You can buy fresh ingredients, meat, fish, spices, vegetables, and then you can have infinite possibilities, a way of putting that together. An open platform lets you choose cameras, analytics, access control, fire systems from different brands, bring them together, and that gives you a couple of things. So one, it's cost effectiveness. You do your cooking at home, it's delicious. It's also cheaper because you can have like fresh snapper, and you can combine that with some yams if you wanted to. You can mix and match. You can save your money for the premium ingredients where your budget's available and where you really need it. And ultimately, it's resilient and it's healthier because your system isn't relying on one vendor. There isn't like one point of failure where something is discontinued, it's not available anymore. What do you do now? You can change the whole time. You can adapt the whole time. You can try new things, find out what you like, and evolve as your business grows and as your systems need to evolve.
Yeah, I like that. I like the synergy with cooking and taking different ingredients to put and basically cook the best meal for you there. I mean, that is in fact, yeah, what Milestone does. I mean, it allows you with their open platform to pull in from all the different vendors. I think one of the discussions we also have during this webinar is, having an early case or early discussion with the project owners and developments. With regards to smart surveillance and data-driven insight, how can we make a stronger case early on with the project owners in developments with regards to this, prioritizing this smart surveillance and data-driven insights?
It's actually a very insightful question, and I think it speaks to efficiency and, when you look at a project, the long-term value of the project. So there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it again. There's never enough time to have the budget, or never enough budget available, but there's always budget later to fix things. The problem is when you're patching things, it's like, say you're building a smart city. You've put in the roads, you've done everything, and then you decide you have to retrofit. That's always going to cost you more, and it's always going to compromise performance. The road's not wide enough. To widen it costs a lot of money, and it causes disruption while that's happening. So when you've got systems that don't integrate seamlessly, you end up with one solution here, one solution there. It becomes overwhelming. Your control room is inefficient. It also ends up costing you money because you just get what you get. The capabilities are limited. You're not getting the full potential from this. When you look at integration from the beginning, and when you look at building a system that's open from the beginning, then you're sitting with a completely different scenario. It becomes strategic. So your cameras and your sensors are positioned for the best coverage. You work with best of breed. So you look at somebody like an Axis, or you look at somebody like a Salto, take the best that's available in the market, and then figure out how you can have something that's even better than the sum of the parts. Combine these different ones together, have them work together, and then all of a sudden you start deriving business value. So when you look at the insights that are generated, you also start becoming proactive instead of reactive. And you also start looking at new revenue opportunities. So you start getting data like how many people are entering your facility, how long they're hanging around, what the movement patterns are. Your staff efficiency goes up. So there's a lot of future-proofing and scalability when you make a couple of decisions at the beginning. And that decision at the beginning is just to have a master plan for where it is that you want to go, and not for what it is that you need right now.
I mean, wow, I can see you're very passionate about it, and I'm sure we can talk about this very, very long. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit the red herring that goes through what we discussed the whole day today, is that, have early discussions about your expectations and about the kind of solutions you want to deploy, and have the infrastructure that can carry it, instead of having to retrofit or doing patches, like you said, and then widen roads and stuff like that. So I know, absolute makes total sense. So thank you very much for that, Lurin. And I mean, I'm sure we'll hear much more in the coming weeks and months about Milestone and how our partnership is developing across the region. So thank you for your participation, and thank you also from Arlette for contributing in today's webinar. I can see we're running really fast out of time, and I know a lot of people want to still talk a lot about other things, but let me move it a little bit from the VMS part to the campus networks and infrastructure scalability. We had a very interesting yet brief presentation earlier by Mr. Samuel Johnson from Huawei, and I'm very eager to get him back on the panel, because there's some there's some real interesting points that Huawei is bringing to the time to the discussion. So Samuel, are you still around?
Yeah, I'm here.
Fantastic.
Fred.
Good. Sorry to pull you back in, but your presentation, albeit very short, left me with a lot of wanting to hear a little bit more. So let me just jump right in. So Huawei's vision for campus networking emphasizes smart, scalable, and secure connectivity. How do you see these principles translating into real-world resiliency for infrastructures in West Africa?
All right, so in principle, right, our vision for smart, scalable, and resilient infrastructure translates into, several businesses, and how that is achievable is that our solutions now, basically, the fundamental principles for all of our solutions is future-proof. They should be able to meet the requirements in a long term. So one of the things that we built together is to ensure that, aside from the ability to interconnect to, the ecosystem, like so many people have mentioned, and how that the solutions cannot be independently, they are not independently able to, carry out some of this requirement on their own. So at the top of my head now, one of the things we do to ensure that is that for the resiliency aspect of things now, we made sure that this solution, when it comes to the physical hardware, when it comes to, the requirement of the customers, because we also consider that whatever we are building is solely going to be meant to meet the requirement of the customers and the scenario that these things are going to be used for. So now when you look at some of them, they have diversified portfolios for some of these devices and the infrastructures generally. So by that now, it means that someone in the hospitality industry, someone in the finance industry is getting something different, although they are trying to achieve the same thing when it comes to the infrastructure primarily now. So that's number one of the things that we built into some of our designs and solutions, considering the fact that a solution can differ in its implementation, and then when it comes to the requirements of these boxes that are going to be built for the backbone network and is going to ensure that other solutions can ride on it. So when it comes to future proofing now, right, one of the things that is very peculiar to us is to ensure that as the demands of technology increases day by day, because we are advancing and we are ensuring that as Huawei, globally, we should be able to meet up with the landscape of things. So one of the things we've done also when it comes to scalable resources is that there are some of our solutions now that you procure, and in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and even when it gets to 10 years, at best, what you need to do is firmware upgrades. So it means that costs at some point in time can be saved. That's in the interim. If you decide to get some of these devices now, you invest now, and then in the next 7 years, 8 years, and 9 years now, firmwares are being pushed to you for free, because those firmwares are probably going to be coming with different upgrades, but then they are still capable of meeting the demands even in the next 5 years. So that's in terms of scalability now. And then we also do a lot to ensure that our devices now can also be dynamic to be able to accommodate third parties, because it's not a closed system for us. So we are doing something at our end. We have Cisco, we have 21st Century, we have so many other partners that we are integrating with. So we ensure that the interoperability from our end to other third parties now is also part of the things that ensures that the solutions end-to-end are capable of giving that required expectation. So when we look at all of these 3 key factors together, scalability, resilience, we also look at the ability to ensure that they are open-ended for other sources to be able to integrate together with us, then it allows us to be able to provide that kind of infrastructure and backbone network that is capable of meeting with the customer's expectation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the three factors that you bring on. I mean, look, let's also talk a little bit practical. You know, given West Africa's infrastructure and connectivity challenges, which we all know are there, and it's not something that's literally going to change overnight. How does Huawei's campus network architecture ensure that uptime, management simplicity, and long-term scalability, like you mentioned, is worked in, especially in and some of our clients are that mission critical environments?
All right, all right. So I think I would want to narrow it down to the aspect of how we ensure that we are able to sort of mitigate the issues of downtime and uptime that we might have experienced over the years concerning ISPs. Because I think in this part of the world now, we still battle with a lot of inconsistency in experiences and even SLAs that are guarantees by some of these ISPs. An ISP can tell you, okay, I'm going to ensure that I deliver so, amount of, bandwidth to you throughout the year 2025. But maybe somewhere at the middle of the year, something just happens. I think as at last year or so, the undersea cable connecting all the way to Europe or so was damaged. And then part of the things that happened was that so many services were impeded, and then so many people had some problems and all of those challenges. So, but part of the things we do on the infrastructure aspect of things is, whilst it's not a general problem that affects everybody, and then we are trying to make sure that consistency is the thing we're trying to get here, so that uptime and downtime is not a problem now, where you always would have that guarantee uptime now, is that within the solution now, there are also softwares that are built to be able to do what we call intelligent traffic steering, intelligent bandwidth utilization. So, for example, in my environment now, maybe my demand requires that within the year, I should not have less than one downtime, because these are some of the things that you measure in some critical environments. If it becomes 2 and it becomes 3, that means there's a lot of challenges that need to be looked into. So now, one of the things Huawei does is, for some of our gateway devices, we've built these features into it with a software platform controller now that allows you to be able to define certain policies based on services. Now, not all services are critical, like you would know. So some services now, we make sure that for this particular service now, whenever there is a little change in the ISPs or there's a little change in the experience of that particular service now, the next available link that you have, because one of the things we also make sure that we talk to customers about and end users in collaboration with our partners, is to ensure that you don't just want to depend on a primary link and you don't have a backup. So in a case where there's a backup, you have multiple ISPs, you have multiple source that powers your business now, where all of these ISPs are fully utilized and ensures that each one of them can work active as much as possible, is why we factored into the solution now. So our services now can run on, for example, an internet link, but because internet link is is a shared resources now compared to maybe MPLS now, we can also ensure that the moment when an internet link is having a problem and is not guaranteed for that particular service, intelligently, without human intervention now, these policies are defined on the software controller that manages all of our hardware devices, so that that particular software can ensure that your traffic and your bandwidth on the other link that is not so consistent at that point in time is not visible to you as an end user, because automatically it can dynamically switch to another available link. That's where the backup link that we talk about comes in now, where you are not depending on just one particular ISP. I mean, because we know we have inconsistency issues in Nigeria and some other part of the world, we can't bank on one single ISPs. We can't depend on them. So we ensure that you have multiples of this. And when you have multiples of this, it is now easier for our own solution now to be able to functionally do that intelligent traffic steering, intelligent bandwidth utilization, to guarantee that at any point in time now, services, applications, and users now do not have to experience maybe a discontinuous network usage, or even some of the key critical applications that you have. They don't have to be slow. They don't have to even get to the point where they don't work at all. So that's one of the things that we've done to ensure that. Another thing is on the security aspect, but I think you let me allow you ask your other questions before I get to that.
No, actually, I'm seeing my team saying that we're really running short on time. I mean, Samuel, I love your passion, and a lot of our panelists today have a real deep understanding and deep passion of the solutions and the ELV infrastructure that we can bring to the table. I want to start wrapping up our panel session. I want to thank you for joining me here on stage, Samuel. I think what is important also is that you know, we thank all our partners that were with us here today on this panel session. I want to just, you know, in my closing remark, just go over them one by one, just so you can have a little recap of the nice and integrating, interesting presentations that we had. We had what Milestone Systems, who showed us how intelligent surveillance and analytics are essential pillars of operation resilience, helping organizations move from reactive to proactive security and infrastructure strategies. Salto, thank you very much for participating, demonstrates how scalable access control solutions are redefining the user experience and security, especially in evolving commercial and hospitality systems. Molex, I mean, Molex emphasizes the foundational importance of structured cabling, an often overlooked but critical element of enabling smart and scalable infrastructure. So thank you very much for that. TOA Corporation, you know, highlighted how integrated audio and evacuation systems are saving lives, improving emergency responsiveness in modern buildings. So an absolute must. Thank you very much, TOA. Axis Communications, I mean, we can talk about this for more than 2 seminars put together, but presented a future-ready surveillance application tailored for real estate, logistics, industrial operations, bridging global expertise with local context. I really like that Cape Town presentation did. And of course, last and not least, Huawei Technologies, you introduced your cutting-edge campus network solutions as a digital foundation for resilient, future-proof infrastructure across various sectors. Wow. I mean, gentlemen, thank you very much, and lady, thank you very much for participating to our panel. We have for the audience a couple of polls that we would like to shoot to you, just to see how you found our presentations. And last but not least, also, I would like to thank my team for their incredible help in setting up this webinar. They've been working day and night setting up this, getting all the questions right, getting all the partners into this very interesting webinar. We will be sharing a lot of the polls post-webinar. We will be interacting with you. If you also scan our QR code, which you will find on your screen, you can give us your feedback about this seminar and webinar. You can give us also your request in terms of what you would like us to talk more about next time, and what we can help you with in the meantime with ELV solutions that we've discussed for today. From my end, I would say thank you very much to all participants. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Please check out our next upcoming event in Q3. We will be releasing information on that very soon on all our social media panels, and I look forward to having even more interactive discussions face-to-face in our next session, and also continue this discussion with all our panelists. Thank you very much from me and from my team. I hope to see you very soon, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much.